Grid Network and PGRL's premier series welcomes you to the Joy of Driving Darlington 250 from Darlington Raceway. I'm Austin Belkey alongside J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe in the booth with our director Trevor Greenfield in the production trailer. J.R., Darlington is a very old-fashioned track, egg-shaped most notably, with turns 1 and 2 being wider than 3 and 4. What else can you tell us about Darlington?
And this is Darlington Raceway, also known as the track Too Tough to Tame. Like you said, it is a 1.366 mile egg-shaped oval. Now this place getting its unique egg shape because the track builder promised the original landowner that he wouldn't disturb the minnow pond that is located on this property. So that's where that unique shape comes from, and thank goodness for that, because it has made this track one of the most iconic and toughest to get around in the country. The turns here are banked at 25 degrees in turns 1 and 2, 23 degrees in turns 3 and 4, but 3 and 4 have a much tighter radius, and it is very easy to overdrive the entry into that corner. The traditional line around here is typically low on entry, let the car drift all the way up right against the outside wall, then turn the car back down and exit the corners low and in a more straight fashion in order to gain traction. That line has evolved over the years, and tonight you may see guys running more in the middle of 1 and 2 and multiple lines from the top all the way down to the bottom in 3 and 4 in order to try to make a pass. However, the track surface here is extremely abrasive and wears the tires out quickly. If you want to win here, you have to drive the track and take care of your tires throughout the run. This means turning the steering wheel a little bit less and being very gentle with that throttle as you accelerate up off the corners. I know for those watching at home this sounds extremely easy, but I can promise you that it is not. I have walked out on this racetrack in real life, and it is unbelievable how abrasive the track surface is and just how narrow it is throughout the entire track on the straightaways and in the corners. These drivers have a long night on their hands and will be slipping and sliding the entire time while trying to run around 180 miles per hour. That will provide us with a lot of entertaining racing here tonight, Austin.
Thank you, JR. Now it's time to turn our attention to tonight's pole sitter, the Mahan Speed Laboratories You Finish Last Pole Award winner, Jonathan Cogswell. Jonathan, you got a copy?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. Well, Jonathan, you're starting on pole here tonight. This track is super abrasive like JR spoke about in the open. What are you going to do to try and make sure you go easy on those Goodyears?
Well, I'm going to try to go for longer runs and kind of take care of my tires, and if anyone wants to pass me, I'll let them on by and I'll pass them later.
For sure. Now, when you talk about that, are you just going to try to run the car out of fuel, or have you already done the math to kind of understand you can go this many laps before you should, or at least allowed to change tires?
Well, I don't think I want to go more than like 40 or 50.
Okay. 10-4, Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we can talk to you at the end of the race tonight.
Yeah, hopefully still that'd be great.
That was Jonathan Cogswell, tonight's Mahan Speed Laboratories You Finish Last Pole Award winner. As such, he'll be starting the field in the first position. We'll see where he goes after that. Kenny, we got about a minute before we read the grid. Let's talk about those keys.
Hey guys, so tonight's 184 laps and 250 miles, so one of the longer races that we will see in this season, with it being based off of the half distance of the 500-mile race. Tire sets, everybody has 6 sets of tires in the pits, 7 counting what they're starting on. 75% fuel limit, so fuel mileage, you can go 50 to 52 laps on a tank of fuel. However, I would expect if you split the race up evenly, that'd be about 30 laps per tire set if you wanted to use up all of your tire sets. So obviously drivers will be looking forward to trying to save a set or two if they can. But tonight the keys to the race, patience, especially for drivers starting deep in the field. It's really tough to make passes here. You really kind of need to wait for things to spread out. Things get congested here, and really the drivers in the back are going to hope for longer green flag runs so they can work their way through the pack. Pit road, if we do have green flag pit stops, really tricky pit entry here, really sharp, hard to get the car slowed down, so that's one thing drivers will have to watch out for. Hopefully they practice that in this warm-up. And race the track. If we do have a long green flag run here, tires are going to wear out, and with it being so treacherous and the line being so sensitive here, you really just try your best to make do with what you can, race the track and run your own race and see where you end up in the end.
Thanks, Kenny. Now to go on to our starting grid for tonight's affair. Like we just mentioned, Jonathan Cogswell starts tonight's race from the pole with Cy Fares lining up to his outside in second. Jordan Harnish lines up in third, followed by James Moore, who starts in fourth. Chance Manning rolls off in the fifth positions, followed by Pete Baskins, who starts in sixth. Joe Alberico lines up in seventh, followed by Drew Carroll, who starts in eighth. Christopher Dewald and James Cahula round out the top 10, followed by Grant Brown, who starts in 11th. Woody Mahan lines up to his outside in 12th, followed by Greg O'Berry and Thomas George, who line up in 13th and 14th, respectively. Brian Yazik in the 55 starts 15th, followed by Isaiah Dupre in the 86, who starts in 16th. Rich Jetty lines up in 17th, followed by Adam Jersky, who starts in 18th. Michael Krobach and Wally Wilson round out the top 20 starting positions, JR.
Yeah, starting in 21st place tonight will be Cody Dempster. Alongside him in 22nd will be John Wilco. Starting 23rd is Justin Rector. Alongside him in 24th we have Chris Parnas. Starting 25th tonight is Hurley Moss. In 26th position is Matthew Wheeler. And on our last roll of tonight's race is our past two champions. Starting 27th is Scott Eckridge, and alongside him is Jeff Ward.
Thanks, JR. These drivers getting ready to go out and do 184 laps of battle against each other and the track. Kenny, you talked about it in your Kenny's Keys. You got to race the track. It's so important to just hit your marks, and the rest of the race will come to you. The other drivers on track, those are just obstacles that you're going to have to avoid if you want to bring this car home in one piece. Many of these drivers won't do that. There's a reason they call it the Darlington Stripe. In real life, oftentimes there would not be a race finished here where there wasn't just a bunch of black lines up on the wall from drivers getting into them. Most of the time you couldn't even read the numbers on the right sides of these cars. We'll see how many people get their Darlington Stripes tonight. The iRacing pace car pulls down pit road, gives command of the field over to Jonathan Cogswell. He can wait as long as he'd like to before the iRacing starter waves the green flag. It's up to Jonathan when we start the race. Puts his foot on the green flag. Gives most of the field a pretty good job to stay with him. But look at the 40 car. Pete Baskins to his outside. He's going to stay right there with him.
Yeah, Pete Baskins is in a good spot going through turns 1 and 2 here, but it looks like Jonathan is going to prevail on that bottom of the track. He's going to have to be careful off of turn 2. It gets really tight off there, Austin.
Yeah, super tight. You can see Drew Carroll now gets a huge run on the inside. Look at him. He almost got to the inside of Jonathan Cogswell. He's got a really fast piece here tonight. We're going to have to see, though, Kenny, how well these guys manage their tires. Lots of comers and goers.
Yeah, some of these drivers up front, they might even, they have good track positions, so they might try really hard here early on to get those last couple spots to maybe get up towards the front. Other drivers might be okay with dropping back, and they'll try to get some positions later. We talked to Cogswell, and that would seem to be his strategy, so we'll see how hard he tries to keep his track position.
Look at Jordan Harnish on the inside of his Patriot Media teammate there, Pete Baskins. Out front, though, it's still Jonathan Cogswell driving that super awesome Davey Allison throwback scheme. Last time we were here in the spring Darlington race, virtually everybody was running a throwback scheme because that's NASCAR's dedicated throwback weekend. Tonight, not too many drivers running the throwback schemes unless they run them all night, all season long. Like Cogswell, you can see most of the field for right now single filed out. You saw Drew Carroll just barely poking his nose out, trying to get some cleaner around the car, trying to see where the corner is to make sure he's not caught off guard, JR.
Exactly right, and we're riding on board with Chance Manning here, and like you said, this is usually a throwback weekend when we come here at the beginning of the year. Second race, not so much, but this is such a throwback type of racetrack, Austin. This is a track that the driver can make a huge difference, just depending on how he drives the car, how he takes care of his equipment, and how he approaches each and every corner while racing the other cars.
Oh yeah, there's a huge reason why each and every time we come to Darlington, it's pretty much the same couple of guys out front. You've got Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick. Back in the day, it was always Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt, Richard Petty. A lot of those old school drivers were very good at getting around Darlington. That's why some of those guys, like Jeff Gordon, has, I think, 7 Southern 500 victories under his belt. So it's definitely a driver's track, and you can really get a good feel for what the car needs if you know how to get around here. Riding on board the Chance Manning is trying to see if he can't get around there. The 40 car, Patriot Media marketing car, Pete Baskins.
Yeah, Yeah, and that's a great place to try to get a pass made on somebody, is in the turn 3, running that bottom line while the other driver drifts up to the top. You can make a lot of progress through the apex of that corner, but you have to be extremely careful on corner exit that you don't slide up and get into that guy while he's still on your outside. Chance doing a great job there.
Kenny, I know several times we've been here for the Southern 500 in the iRacing series, the NIS series. Most of the time, if you catch a guy down the straightaway, he'll just let you go on the entrance to the corner. A lot of these guys have been really fighting each other all night long. We're only 7 laps in, but this is the time in the NIS series where people will just let you by.
Yeah, a lot of times if you can get up next to somebody going into turn 1, most drivers will know that turn 1 is, I mean, you can race into turn 1 side by side, but it's really difficult to do so, and sometimes it's just better to let somebody go. And that's, you know, turn 3 is a lot easier to race in side by side, so if you can set up turns into turn 1, kind of force that driver to make a decision, a lot of times the attacking driver will prevail. Would like to quickly note Chris Parnas in the 67 car. He has hit the outside wall and out of turn 2 a couple times. He's lost a couple positions. Still riding around the bottom of the track right now. You see him kind of struggling on the low line at the moment. Might have some damage to the right side of that car.
Thanks, Kenny. Good eye there. Out front is still Jonathan Cogswell. He currently has about a 1/10 of a second lead over Drew Carroll. Now Drew Carroll gets to his inside as they head down the front straightaway. Drew Carroll leads that last lap.
Yeah, Drew doing a great job. He's got a lot of car control. We've seen him in races earlier in this season. He's been able to come through the field and even take charge on the road course. So, yeah, definitely got a lot of car control, a lot of feel, and this is the type of track that allows that type of driver to shine.
There already was passed by Jordan Harnish, and now he's being hunted there by Chance Manning in the 54 just behind him. So Jonathan falling through the field. You know, if you're a fan of Cogswell, don't be too worried yet. He's just taking care of his tires. These guys have, what, Kenny, about 40 laps to a run of fuel, maybe even 50. But, of course, tires are the deciding factor. So if you can just take care of those Goodyear Eagles all race, you're certainly going to be there at the end of the long green flag run, if there is one. Lots of times in real life, this race will go caution-free, and then towards the end, it'll have a whole string of cautions.
Yeah, this has been a pretty good, clean start so far. The field getting relatively spread out, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what tire strategy is, because you can probably pit in somewhere in the lap 30-something range, but you can stretch it up past lap 50. So I think you'll start to see a lot of varying strategies. You might see some of the slower drivers try to go long on their fuel run to see if they can potentially catch a caution at the right spot. But of note too, Jeff Ward started in the back. He is up into the top 15, up to 14th now, and a few cars behind him is Scott Eckrich in 17th. So those two drivers hard charging so far.
Certainly Pete Baskins gets really slideways there off at turn 2. That allows Woody Mahan to get to his outside. Woody started all the way back in the 12th position, and how about the car just behind him? 2 cars behind him now, trying to work on Pete Baskins is the driver of the 71, Adam Chersky. Adam started all the way back in 18th. Is there some smoke there on the front stretch? I don't know what that's from. Back to the pits. But yeah, Kenny, it's important that you mentioned those 2 drivers coming from the back of the field like that, being Jeff Ward and Scott Eckrich. Those 2 drivers fought for the lead here and the win at this race in the spring. So those guys having a lot of pace, and some other people to keep an eye on though already. Cody Dempster, Adam Jersky. Cody's already made 10 spots since the start of the race. As you see Adam Jersky barely poking his nose here to the inside of the 40 car of Pete Baskins.
Poked his nose down there, thought that Pete might give it to him, I think, but Pete drove it in there pretty hard, kind of scraped the wall a little bit, but no major contact, and he's able to continue. We do have a caution, though, down the backstretch.
Oh man, Jordan Harnish sideways down the backstretch, narrowly avoided contact there from several other drivers. Let's see if we can't get a replay here to see the cause for caution. You see Harley Moss already down on pit road getting a change of tires. I think he was committed to this pit stop before the caution had come out. I think he was a driver, the reason for the smoke there down the front stretch that we saw a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, so this was the incident that did not bring out the caution. So Harley Moss with a spin, and one other driver, I think it was Moore, who attempted to avoid him, The actual cause for caution ended up being Jordan Harnish, like you said, Austin. Spun out from I think the second place position. Wasn't really his fault. Matthew Wheeler, a lap car in front of him, slammed into the outside wall. You'll see it right there, slammed into the outside wall, and then a great job actually by Harnish to keep his car out of the inside wall, and a good job by everybody else avoiding him. So Harnish will be able to continue from here on out, but pretty scary wreck there.
Thanks for that, Kenny. Yeah, lots of calamity there. You really hate to see that for Harnish. We see a couple drivers coming down pit road already. It looks like the front two and the rest of the field. We'll see how many drivers stay out. It looks like Craig O'Berry, one of the drivers, staying out for sure. So you see Thomas George coming down pit road. Of course, that's another throwback to Mark Martin this time, but of course he ran that last week too, so it's not just a throwback for the sake of being a throwback.
Yeah, to me, I think this is a little bit early. I mean, I would think if I'm mid-pack, if I see a bunch of drivers staying out, I'd probably stay out as well, just because the fact that you should be trying to make your tires last at least 30 laps in order to have a set at the end. So, but it could work out. I mean, if we run a lot of green flag laps beyond this point after the next restart, that could work in the drivers who've pitted. It could work in their favor.
Certainly could. Yeah, you want to make your tires last at least those 26 laps. Now, granted, we're only about 10 laps short of that 26 number, so it's definitely not going to kill anybody's day by pitting early. Pete Baskins is going to come down pit road this time by. That's going to put him severely off sequence for the rest of the field. He'll be the last one on the lead lap when they come back out on track. So, unfortunately for him, unless it's another car on my screen, yeah, Pete down pit road. Which reminds me, Trevor, let's take a look at the points standings coming into tonight. We've only had one race thus far, two races, thus far into the season. So the points are certainly shaping up this far in, but not a whole lot to be told about the challengers so far in. Cody Dempster is currently your points leader in the 24 car, followed by Mike Rasmus and Brian Yazik. Adam Jersky having a breakout season, and of course Thomas George. Several of the people up there we pretty much expected to see up there this part in the season, JR.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of those guys we expect to be up there. Cody Dempster, though, he's a little bit newer to this series, but has a lot of real-world experience, and he's putting that to good use so far into this season. We'll have to see if he can keep that on, because right now he is the points leader.
Mike Rasmus currently P2 in the points. Unfortunately for Mike, he didn't make it here tonight, so we'll see what he can do for that whole Mr. Consistency 5. This is the first race he's missed all season, but you can see an at least 10-point lead there from Rasmus to Dempster. So currently looking to wrap up this caution here. You can see the rest of the championship standings all the way down the field, all the way down to Christopher DeWald there in 27th place. So lots of challengers. We still got a lot of races left, though. We'll take a look at the rest of the schedule for this season. This, of course, is following the NASCAR Cup Series season. So we're going to go the exact same places they do, just about 3 days later than them. Got Kansas coming up next week, and then we go to Bristol, the Bristol night race, one of my favorite races of all time. And we got a couple wild cards. We've still got Talladega left on the schedule, and Kenny, you talked about it before, going to Homestead as the third to last race.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique circuit. I'm curious to see how these Gen 7 cars race there, but it's pretty nice for these guys that they're able to run, if they want to, they can run the NIS series before PGRL comes to the same venue and essentially run the same event, same distance and everything like that. Just a different fuel load and a different tire allotment. But with NIS, how it's scheduled, it can provide some decent practice for these drivers if they choose to use it.
Jonathan Cogswell is still in P1 after the most recent caution. He was passed for the lead, then he retook it back. A couple drivers went down pit road. The first of those is pretty deep in the field here. Of note, Scott Eckridge has stayed out underneath the most recent caution, so he's going to line up in about the 8th position. Look at Jonathan Cogswell. He got a lot better of a start this time than he did on the initial.
Yeah, he timed that one well. He is well out front through turns 1 and 2, can run whatever line he wants to and just be comfortable. Behind him is Woody Mahan, who's going to try to make some ground up. Woody's had a lot of good runs, guys, but just not been able to close it off due to several different issues out of his control most of the time. So looking to have another good run here.
Yeah, I'm looking at Adam Piersky too. That's another driver to look out for in this top 5 already. Adam currently made a lot of. Whoa, look at Greg O'Berry getting really sideways. He slammed the wall pretty hard. Not a whole lot of damage on that 97 car. You can see the field is just going to swamp him there going into 1.
Could have been really big. This is one of the places that when somebody wrecks in front of you, it's very hard to avoid them. You can't just turn the car without it getting sideways and upsetting what you have going on, and in return wrecking yourself. You see Greg O'Berry kind of wiggling the car around on the back straightaway, trying to see if he still has something to work with here. He may have some damage on one of the suspension, right front suspension, if anything, but continuing on anyway.
Yeah, it looks like he definitely has some right front damage on the bodywork, so that splitter not going to be too happy with those most recent events for him. Also of note, I mentioned Scott Eckridge restarted the race in 8th position. He's dropped 6 of them all the way back to 14th place. This one driver, Jordan Harnish, slowing down. I think Pete Bassett's got the wall pretty hard down the backstretch.
Guys, that was actually Cody Dempster, our point leader. He hammered the inside wall. We'll have to get a replay, but I think that's pretty much terminal damage for this car.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kenny. That car does not look in good shape as we get a look at the replay here. Cody Dempster following Rahula through the corner, coming off of turn 2, and yeah, he just he did a little bit like we saw the lap car in the last incident, just got a little bit outside the groove into the marbles off of turn 2, and if you do that, the car will absolutely go straight into that outside wall, and once he hit that outside wall, he had no control down to the inside wall, and that finished off that car.
Oh, and guys,
Yeah,
I'd like to play this replay through with Jeff Ward and play it all the way through, because there was actually some more contact between Ward and Eckridge right after this happened, going down into turn 3, kind of a chain reaction. So 3 heavy hitters in the championship, all affected by this.
I was just going to ask you the same view. So this is right along with Ward. You see Dempster gets tight off, bounces off the outside wall. Then Jeff Ward trying to save the car. Has to go up the track, and he gets just barely a little bit hit there by Scott Eckridge. Maybe we can view this from Scott's point as well, Trevor.
Yeah, he basically just gets rear-ended by Eckridge, and I think Eckridge got hurt pretty bad by that. I think Ward will be all right from both ends. Here you go, you see it, and he just hits somebody, leaps up in the air, and I think that really hurt that 70 car.
Yeah, I'll have to see how much damage Scott has. Usually, oh yeah, you can see the left front there locked up pretty good. So he's going to need to change these tires. Luckily for Scott, he hasn't already come down pit road. It looks like that thing's tracking pretty well, but I definitely do agree, though. Cody Dempster's night is gone. After the wreck, while Cody Dempster was sitting there stationary on the back straightaway, he was hit by Greg O'Berry. I think Greg O'Berry has some serious suspension damage. He's been on pit road for the last minute or so.
But JR, I'd like to bring you into this. You know, for some of those drivers, some of them guys pitted. They could have stayed out and gained some track position and been possibly ahead of that issue, but they decided to pit, give up some track position, and end up being kind of in the middle of the pack, and that's the kind of stuff that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and you know, it's a hard decision. You want to have the best tires possible so you can turn the fastest laps and have the most maneuverability through the field as you're trying to pass, but at the same time, like you said, best case, if you want to use all of your tire sets, you need to be somewhere in the mid-30s lap range before you pit, and we were only around lap 15 or 16, so a lot of these guys choosing to pit early. In return, that put them behind this incident and potentially ruined a couple of those guys' nights because of that. So it's always a tough decision, but these are the type of things that can happen when you pit and others stay out.
Speaking of drivers pitting and staying out, Woody Mahan has taken over the lead. Jonathan Cogswell has come down pit road, puts Jonathan in the 16th position so far. A couple other drivers who must have pitted: Adam Jersky, Michael Krobach, Rich Jetty, John Wilco was down there on pit road. And then, of course, you saw Jeff Ward and Greg O'Berry down there, too.
Yeah, I don't really like that call from the guys who just pitted this last caution, because we only ran, what, a lap or two under green, and then the rest of those drivers came in and pitted. So, you know, they gave up the track position, and now they're behind a bunch of drivers that really don't have much older tires. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but we'll see this kind of strategy all night long. We got a long ways to go and a lot of chances where the field position could be flip-flopped.
certainly could. I think some of those drivers, perhaps John Wilco, just came down to top up on fuel. He was already at the back of the pack, so I don't know why he would have come down to take any tires. I think fuel only for that last stop, as long as you're already in the back of the pack, a pretty decent call. For everyone else, though, I agree with you, Kenny. Tires probably not the best bet. If you're just now joining us, we're on lap 25 of 184. You're getting ready for what's going to be a long night. This race in real life, technically not the longest in terms of mileage, but it always ends up lasting one of the longest just based on time alone. 500 miles around this track, but these drivers slow down to a snail's pace once their tires get worn out. You will, of course, have the plethora, the slew of cautions, if you will. iRacing pace car goes back down pit lane. Woody Mahan now on point in this race. He's got Chance Manning lined up to his outside, Drew Carroll in third, Thomas George in fourth, Ryan Yazik in fifth. What a start there from the driver of the 84 car.
Yeah, Woody making no. He was ready to go on that start. Got a big leap into turn 1 and 2. Did not give the other guys any type of chance to contend with him into turn 1. Looks like they're going to close up. Good run down the back stretch here by Chance Manning and Drew Carroll.
Yeah, we know both those drivers came to, well, look at the pass for the lead here. Chance Manning on the inside of Woody Mahan. That's for first position. Move the 54 car up to first position.
Chance has been running a good race. He's been very aggressive. We've only seen short runs, though, so it's hard to tell if he's using up a lot of his stuff early, as we got some other activity happening on the track, like Christopher DeWald down on the bottom on the front stretch here. Hopefully he'll be able to get back around so we can stay green.
Yeah, it looks like both his suspension on the front ends of that car, left and right, are broken. You can see the right tire was kind of just moving freely, however the car wanted it to the track, really. So we'll see what he can do to make sure he can get back to pit road. This is a replay. Look at that Derek Cope throwback on the outside.
I'd love to see that throwback, but yeah, just getting loose, coming down in front of DeWald, and Rector looks like he has some left rear suspension damage, and like you said,
I'd say both
fronts.
Yeah, both the left sides are broken.
And he quit out too, so Rector's out of this race, so just like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to be at least 5 or 6 laps down by the end. This is another replay coming up off the corner. Yeah, just closes up a little bit more. DeWald got through the center of the corner, it looks like, really well. Had a good run off, and just hadn't really considered that Christopher would not have gotten that big a run.
Yeah, that's one of the things, Kenny, you can jump in here too. At this track, if the guy in front of you has older tires, or if he just misses the corner exit just a little bit, it is very hard to check up and avoid contact with him, as we continue to watch the lead here. Chance Manning, Drew Carroll swapping it back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, mid-corner speed, I mean, you're really trying to get back on the throttle as early as you can. So, you know, you stab on it and somebody else has like a tight condition, starts pushing up towards the wall, they're going to get out of the gas really heavily. And sometimes it leads to kind of an accordion effect. And it's, you know, once you start committing, it's kind of hard to avoid contact when you're right on the top of somebody.
Another throwback further up the field, Grant Brown and the 41 car, he's thrown back to, I think that's a Jimmy Spencer car, Fujifilm throwback. He raced that here earlier in the spring. So a couple drivers bringing out their throwback rides for this event. Brian Yazik, though, has moved up to the 3rd position. He was on just an awesome run at the end of last season. I mean, he was still in it for the points. He had a lot of ground to make up on Jeff Ward, though. He went back-to-back and won 2 of the last 2 races last season, so he's definitely going to be one of the championship competitors. And, you know, with Cody Dempster wrecking, like Rasmus not being here, Scott Ackrich wrecking, Jeff Ward involved in that accident, Brian Yazik might come out of here with the point lead.
Yeah, you know, he definitely could. With Rasmus not being here, Dempster's out. I mean, it's all signs are pointing towards Yazik or Jurski taking the points lead after tonight, but still a long ways to go. But, you know, guys, I'd like to ask a question real quick. With a lot of attrition so far, you know, less than 20 cars left on the lead lap already, less than 30 even entered into this race. So is that going to change the mentality of, you know, pit strategy, knowing that you won't lose as many positions potentially? I mean, I know it's really early to make these guesses, but I feel like, you know, a lot of big players are also being knocked out of this race, so that may up the aggression level of some of the drivers who haven't won before.
as soon as you see guys that normally dominate in this race, oh, we see some contact on screen there a little bit. Couldn't tell exactly who that was. But yeah, exactly right. You see guys that normally dominate, that win races on a regular basis, when they start to have issues, that gives you the opportunity to go up there and take a win away, especially if you're somebody that already has speed on a weekly basis. And those are the guys that we're seeing up front right now. Drew Carroll, Chance Manning, Brian Yazik, even Grant Brown's getting up there right now in 4th place. So these are guys that want to try to win, and they're going to race hard to try to do it.
Yeah, just talking purely from a strategical standpoint, you know, what prevents a lot of guys, even in the Cup Series, so especially here as well, from doing these, you know, risky pit calls with certain strategies towards the end of the race. You don't want to pit too early or too late. You're okay with pitting too late because if there's a caution, you can trap a lot of people a lap down. But you don't want to be one of the first people to come down pit road if there is a caution, because your race is pretty much over at that point. You'll be lucky if you get the wave around or the lucky dog. So there not being a whole lot of cars left, that's basically less cars on track to bring out a caution. That opens the door to a lot of different, you know, flavors of strategy you can play in terms of, you know, hitting sooner, undercutting the field, just, you know, different varieties of that.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, Austin. Most of these guys do not have somebody being their crew chief or spotter or anybody feeding them information. They're out there driving these race cars on a very tough racetrack, but they're also having to come up with their own strategy, and they're thinking about these things throughout the entire race while they're driving. It's very difficult to do, but we'll see tonight who is able to do it the best.
Certainly is, especially at a track like this where the tire fall off is immense. I mean, Kenny, if we look at our current leader, Drew Carroll, when he started this last run, I mean, his fastest lap so far is a 29.199. And the last couple laps he's been running, they've been closer to the 32nd bracket than anything else. He's been putting down some mid-29s, but they've been getting closer and closer to those 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good bit of fall off. I'm not sure if the fall off will be as much in these cars as they were in the Gen 6.
Definitely not. Definitely
right, but it's definitely enough to become a factor. But you know, if I'm Drew Carroll or one of these drivers up front, I'm going to stay out as long as I can until some of the real players up front start pitting. I'm going to let them kind of play my strategy for me, and somebody who pits early might start to force drivers' hands, but really, if I'm a car in the top 5, I'm looking for other cars in the top 5 to see when they pit, so then I can counter them.
Up front for the time being, it's still Drew Carroll leading the 54 car. Chance Manning, Brian Yazik is in 5th, followed by Thomas George in 4th. Grant Brown rounds out the top 5. Josiah Dupre is in 6th, followed by Jonathan Cogswell in 7th. Jonathan Cogswell started on the pole. The Davey Allison throwback. Chris Parness is in 8th. Jordan Harnish and Michael Krobach round out the top 10. Krobach having a pretty solid night. He's already gained 9 positions since the start of this race. Just behind him, though, is the number 9 car, Jeff Ward.
Jeff is doing very well. He's come from 28th already up into 11th. We've seen him have that contact and that initial caution earlier in the race, but looks like his car is up and running, and he's just doing what he normally does. He is in no hurry to get to the front, but I can guarantee you if he keeps the car as clean as it is right now, he will be up at the front by the end of this race.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about championship competitors. Scott Eckrich wasn't here. Oh, there's a caution out on track. Lots of smoke down the front stretch. I think that's Grant Brown in the wall. Yep.
That's another factor, or another driver that was a factor in this race, driving up near the front.
I don't think he's got any damage on that car.
Yeah, I agree, Austin. His car looks like it's in good shape. We'll get the replay here to see what happened.
Racing here with Isaiah Dupre. This is down the back straightaway. So they're going to be side by side hanging into turn 3 and 4. You can get through turns 3 and 4 side by side. Not recommended, but it's possible.
Yeah, guys, he just loses it off of turn 4 here, and he gets into a slide, and I don't think he touches anything.
Oh yeah, does a really good job of locking it down. And then the field does a good job of avoiding him. He bounces off the wall, but there's safer barriers, so I don't think iRacing triggers as is any damage to the car. We'll see if he might have net coded some damage at the end. But 43 laps in here, guys. I still think it's a little bit too early to take your second set of tires.
Looks like most drivers are going to come in. It looks like the leaders are coming in. But this is pretty big for Woody Mahan because him and James Krahula both, they are two drivers that have essentially saved well, they've saved a set of tires.
They haven't.
This is their first. Yeah, this is their first pit stop. So and it looks like Krahula's actually staying out again. But Mahan anyway was obviously fast, and he's going to save a set of tires, and that could come into play later on.
Yeah, definitely, guys. If these guys that are saving their tires, if they're able to get a race where we have a little bit of green flag racing, but then several cautions toward the end, they will be the fastest guys on track. And I know that that's probably their plan here. But yeah, it's a gamble. But again, these are guys that are trying to win a race, especially while others are struggling.
See, Thomas George wins the race off pit road. We're going to go side by side so you won't miss a moment of the pacing action. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Joy of Driving Darlington 250. We're here at Darlington Raceway. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network. If you're looking for entertaining sim racing content, look no further than the Joy of Driving. Follow Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with his cat-like reflexes, all while providing current commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. You can follow along by subscribing to the Joy of Driving on YouTube, or you can like his Facebook page at facebook.com/the Joy of Driving channel. Mark Cohn, seriously entertaining guy. Recommend you go check that out. We're on lap 46 of 184. We're underneath our third caution of the night here at race 3 of the PGRL's third season for 2022. If you're just now joining us, we've had 3 cautions like I mentioned. A handful of championship competitors this season are out. Cody Dempster came into tonight as the points leader. He's already manually disconnected from the session. Scott Eckridge, season 1 champion, has already been involved in quite a bit of difficulty for him, involved in a wreck down the back straightaway. He's currently 13 laps down in the 22nd position. So currently coming out of here, looks like Brian Yazik, Thomas George, maybe even Adam Jersky might come out of here with the points lead. We'll have to see how things turn out before the end of the night. Pretty much the entire field just came down pit road, so pretty even set here on tire strategy. We'll have to see, though, who took what tires. iRacing pace car pulls down pit road. Thomas George in the lead. Chance managing his outside as Ida Gray third, Brian Yazik fourth, Drew Carroll in fifth. Green flag is out. We're back underway. Thomas George getting a pretty good restart there in front of the rest of the field. He's going to be single file clear of everyone else as they head down into turns 1 and 2. The first 2 wide battle is Brian Yazik on the outside. He's going to clear Isaiah Dupre.
Yeah, Brian Yazik driving that great paint scheme that he's gotten 2 wins in so far. Being able to get that third position coming off of turn 2. Looks like Chance Manning's going to try to have a look on Thomas George going into turn 3, but he decides to settle back in.
Yeah, the pits crew of that 6 machine definitely doing a great job to get Thomas out there in the lead for this restart. We'll see what kind of speed Chance has in that car. He was super fast all throughout the race, so we'll see how many laps it takes him to get around the 6 machine. You can see there on your screen Woody Mahan, James Carula, the only 2 drivers in the field that have only pit once, and it's going to be important to make sure these guys have enough tire sets before the end of the race. You can see Jeff Ward, he's pit 3 times. He's probably only used 2 sets of tires, but definitely have to, take note of what sets of tires you have got left in the pits.
Yeah, definitely. Based on the numbers that Kenny gave us earlier, you should only have used 1 set of tires already in this race. Some guys using 2 or 3. That is going to hurt them if we get several cautions late in this race, but hopefully we get some good green flag racing here. We can see who is able to drive this track the best over the long run.
Running on board here with Thomas George. Kenny, why don't you talk us through a lap here?
Yeah, I actually wanted to run ride cockpit view with some drivers because down the backstretch we're going to see the factor of the sun, which will go away as this race goes on. But as we ride on board here with Thomas George, actually it looks like the sun just now starting to go behind the buildings in turn 3. But we'll watch Thomas George go into turn 3 and 4 real quick, and we'll start our lap here. You always want to get a good run off of turn 4 here. Look, you see got a challenging driver right behind Chance Manning there. We'll see if Thomas George backs out of this challenge. And it looks like he mostly will, but still side by side. Really narrow down here in turn 1 and 2. I traditionally like to go up high and then cut back down low on the exit of turn 2. Have a nice straight exit off of 2. Down into turn 3, a lot of different ways you can run this corner. You can enter in low, slide up high. You can enter in high, dive down low on the exit. Looks like Thomas keeping a pretty low line, getting decent drive off the corner. We'll head back down into turn 1 one more time. We'll see if he gets a challenge from Yazek. He does not. You see there, he wants to clip that apron. That's pretty important. I see drivers in the real cup race try to go enter in high. I don't think you'll see that much today. You'll see mostly drivers will clip that apron and use it for grip, then go back up and back down the track for a nice straight exit of 2. But it's just, this track is just so different, and there's a lot of different ways to make it work here, and a lot of times you have to change your driving style based on tire conditions.
Yeah, this track is a complete roller coaster. You look at Thomas George. He enters the corner super low and then goes all the way up to the outside wall. They call this place a roller coaster in real life because that's what you're doing. You're going up and down and side to side. You go all the way from the bottom of the track up, almost clip the wall through turns 1 and 2. Then you got to steer the car back down to make sure you get a good run for that back straightaway. 3 and 4, it's weird. It's anybody's best guess as to which line is the fastest. Sometimes it's against the wall, sometimes it's on the bottom, but for sure 1 and 2, it's pretty much one line through there.
Yeah, and, as we rode on board, we see Brian Yazek has gotten by Thomas George here. I did like what Thomas was doing through turns 3 and 4. He was running mostly that bottom lane. That is not the fastest line around this place with new tires, but that is a good way to try to save your tires as long as you keep yourself from overturning that steering wheel on corner exit. But as you can see, he's losing a ton of time on that exit, so he's got to find a way to minimize the bleeding and not lose so many positions here in the early part of this run. If he can do that, he should have a decent car as we get later in this run.
Well, JR, talk to me. Why is it so much easier on the tires to run that lower line?
Just when you're running that high line through 3 and 4, you're carrying more speed getting into the corner, you're getting up there right against the wall, and then you're getting on that throttle really hard. You're getting a very good run, a lot of momentum coming up off the corner. It feels great when you're able to hit that line right, but you're using up the rear tires really bad, and you're going to pay for it in the longer run. Guys like Thomas George, they're kind of taking it easy on their stuff through there, and by running that lower line, it keeps you from getting on that throttle really hard, but it slows you down. So he's got to find a way to kind of find a middle ground here so he's not losing as much time.
One driver losing a lot of time, having a whole heap of trouble is Chil Alberico in the 83 car. He is significantly back off the pace, falling back from the lead quite heavily. Right now, I currently have him being scored in the 18th position.
One thing good for George as well with running that line is the fact that he's one of the few that's running that line, and it basically is leaving an open door for him in turn 3 as we have another caution on the speedway.
Chris Parness, one of the drivers involved. We'll have to see what the cost for caution in here. Oh, he's already sideways there. That looks like turns 3 and 4. See if we can get another look here.
Yeah, it looks like Parnas actually got into the side of Eckrich and then got into the side of, I think that was O'Barry the second time, and that kind of drove him sideways.
Yeah, so this is coming off turn 4. This is going into turns 1 and 2. That's harnessed to his outside, like I mentioned, Kenny. Then you got Scott Eckrich on the outside. Oh yeah, just barely gets into Eckrich. Does a good job to keep it off him, and then in trying to save the car, gets into Gringo Berry and makes sense of the rest of the way around.
Actually, a little bit surprised that that threw a caution. I mean, I guess he is mostly sideways, but sometimes Darlington's weird in iRacing in that if they're off the racing surface, they won't throw the yellow. But few drivers coming in for a pit stop. Krahula is one of them. Remember, he has at least one tire set in the bank. Harnish coming down, Jetty and Wilco coming down as well.
Yeah, Wilco might just be down here to top up on fuel. Rich Jetty, not too sure. Rich Jetty is still in the lead lap. John Wilco is on the lead lap as well. Blows through his pit box just a little bit. John, it looks like he's doing a Guardians of the Galaxy scheme here tonight on that Apricot machine.
Yeah, it's one of the things we always look forward to seeing each and every week is what kind of paint scheme he comes with, and he does a great job of providing those schemes to us, doing the work himself. So always amazing to see what he's able to come up with. Great looking car once again tonight.
We're going to take a quick break and be right back here before we go back green flag racing. You're not going to miss a second, though. We're going to go side by side. We'll be right back. We welcome you back to the Joy of Driving Darlington 250 from Darlington Raceway. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network and the PGRL. We're here at Darlington for 184 laps, half the distance of the full-length Cup Series race. If you're looking for some entertaining sim racing content, look no further than the Joy of Driving. You can follow Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with his cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. You can follow Mark by subscribing to the Joy of Driving channel on YouTube, or you can like his Facebook page at facebook.com/thejoyofdriving channel. You can see that logo on the screen now, and the different links you can get to them. Those are, of course, flipping through the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And Kenny, we were talking about it during the most recent break here. You talked about the sun blinding these drivers just as it does here in real life as the sun gets ready to set, and that's really important if you have a certain setting selected.
Yeah, so if drivers have an HDR setting turned on, then down the back stretch right now at about this time, the sun's starting to set and you'll actually see the sun rays just pierce into your face, I mean, through the entire back stretch. And as the sun starts to go down behind the buildings and the grandstands and the wall, that'll go away and it won't be such a factor. But Darlington is a race that starts in the day, goes into the night, and iRacing with it having the day-to-night transitions can make it pretty tricky. If you have the HDR setting off, it'll look a little more like what we see out of Chance Manning's view right here. It won't be quite as bad, but some drivers may have that setting on, and there's no really escaping it, and you straight up cannot see.
Yeah, HDR stands for high dynamic range. Your computer needs to be capable of it, as does your monitor. Basically makes the blacks ultra dark and deep, and then it makes the white, like from the sun, super duper bright. So really widens the spectrum on both ends, but again, kind of beefier option. So a lot of drivers have it turned off just to improve performance. Brian Yazik is currently your leader in the 55 machine. Well, sorry, Chance Manning currently your leader. He chose to restart on the high side, gets a huge run up off the high side from Brian Yazik, who had to restart down on the inside. The first 4 cars now single file as they feed into turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, Yeah, Chance getting a good run up off of turn 2. Brian Yazik's looking to take that lead from him. He's going to try to chase him down in these opening laps after this restart. Brian taking the higher line through turns 3 and 4.
Look at our pole sitter there, Jonathan Cogswell, being passed up by the defending champion, Jeff Ward. Jeff involved in an accident earlier in the race, the one that's brought out the second caution of tonight. Jeff's been doing a really good job, like you call it, JR, running that Jeff Ward of a race. As you can see, now we have a battle for the lead. Brian Yazik on the inside of Chance Manning. Looks like Brian's going to clean, but we'll see if Chance can use the momentum on the high side off, too.
Yeah, Chance did not want to give up that lead. He raced Brian through turns 1 and 2. Brian was able to prevail, and he's continued to run that high line through turns 3 and 4, so he's going to get a good run down the front straightaway here.
Look at Drew Carroll. He's trying to get to the inside here at Thomas George. George lets him by. That's the kind of move I was talking about. You see a lot of drivers in real life do in the NIS series earlier on in the race.
Yeah, and it's just a smart move to do at this point of the race until you're in that last run. You do not want to take any chances of getting your car hit, damaged, or into the walls. We actually got an incident back on the back straightaway. Looks like Grant Brown has spun, but no caution is out. He's able to get it back rolling, guys.
Yeah, Grant Brown super fast here in the early goings of this race, but he's having a lot of handling problems as of recent. Just when he's racing people, makes contact with the baskets there.
Did a very nice job to not come away with a lot of damage, but yeah, not a lot that he could do there. Pete Baskins having to slow to stay out of the wall off of turn 2. There's just very little as a driver that you can do to try to slow your car down and avoid that, because you already have your car set up trying to make that run. You're already back on the throttle, and when the guy stops, you can't just hit the brakes. There's no way you can stop in time.
Yeah, not too sure if we can get Clown HQ to look at that car after the race, because he's got to be cheated up some sort of special something or other, because he has taken a couple decent licks, not hard, but he continues to not have any sort of body damage on either end of that car.
Austin, a lot of the guys back in the day, back in the 60s and 70s here, they would have their cars boarded up on the inside. They'd have super big braces on the outside of the or on the right side of the car, even boards, wood boards in there to help keep that car's body panels in line after making contact. So maybe Grant's done something like that here.
Certainly could have. Whoa, super close racing there between the 54 at Chance Manning and the 27 car at Drew Carroll. They were racing for second position out on the track. Drew got super sideways after the two of them got together. That allows Thomas George to get by the 27 car. Now look to the outside of Drew. Oh man, the side of brake gets into the wall.
All of a sudden, everybody has gotten extremely racy here, running hard. Isaiah Dupre losing several positions. I don't think he's going to come away with any suspension damage. He is back up to speed through turns 1 and 2 here, but definitely taking a decent lick up off of turn 4.
Oh man, Chance Manning must have gotten in the wall the last time by. He's been passed by a decent amount of drivers. That gives Brian Yazik a whole second worth of a lead almost.
Absolutely does. And you know, the one thing we talked about earlier, we've seen Chance be so fast in the beginning of these runs. I wanted to see how things got later in the run. You can see here on the replay him and Thomas George getting together in the middle of 1 and 2. What that did was sent Chance up the track and out of the groove in turn 2 into the marbles, into the loose stuff, and he just had no grip. He backed out of it to avoid hard contact, but still made slight contact with the wall.
Oh, Pete Baskins has made hard contact with the front end of his car to the wall again. Pretty much pancaked the whole front fascia of that machine. Here's a replay of what happened. Oh, just got loose coming off turn 4, hit the wall hard.
His night's going to be done. We saw the suspension damage as he drove away earlier, and the front end pushed in quite a bit. So he's continuing on, trying to get back to the pits. But yeah, his night's going to be done. He's going to at least be many laps down.
Yeah, at least 10 or 12 or so. Radiator might be knocked out of that car as well. Oh man, just barely clears the barrels at the end there of pit road. Brian Yazik is still your leader at 1.1 seconds ahead of Thomas George. Then it's Drew Carroll, Jeff Warding a race, as we call it. Jonathan Cogswell started on pole. He's cracked the top 5 once again.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jeff Ward. He's up into the 4th position, having to start back in 28th. Him and Scott Eckridge, the last time here, put on a great show for the race win. You got to know that Jeff is thinking Scott is many laps down. He's more than likely out of this race. This is my shot to really go out there and get a win, not have to worry about Scott tonight.
Michael Krobach having a really good run. We haven't talked much about him being up in the top 10 all night, but he's certainly come on strong in the later going. We're about halfway through this race, so good to see Michael Krobach up there. Certainly just by default, winning the Crow and Krobach show. Vincent Crow, we know we've learned has some difficulties, so he's pretty much on a race-by-race basis of whether or not he can join. So Vincent once again out for this race. He had gotten a lot faster towards the second season, the end of it rather.
As the field's decently spread out, a lot of mostly single file running at the moment. It's like I find one battle, Eckridge trying to get by Harnish, but that's not for position. But might start to see a little bit of strategy start to play out here on this run. Not sure we're going to get that caution.
Yeah, well, this is where the old verbiage comes in. It's one thing to catch, it's another thing to pass, and it's just super hard to pass a driver once you've caught up to them. A, because you have so much of the downforce taken off your car when you're following them, but B, because it becomes so much more difficult to pass a driver when they're in your line, so you really have to try to run different lines and kind of, as you call it, Kenny, go where they aim. As you look at Woody Mahan trying to go to the inside here at Chance Manning. This is for 7th position.
Yeah, I mean, you really hope that at this place, you really hope that if you make a move that the driver you're racing against just kind of gives it to you, at least for the majority of the race. And really, I've seen that be mostly true, except for in the case of Chance Manning. He has been very aggressive in both attacking and defending, and he's really kind of the only driver I've noticed that has not been willing to really give up any spot. And that's probably why he got together with Thomas George early on, which led to Manning losing all those spots, as Thomas kind of flung his elbows out and said, I'm taking this spot, and it kind of rooted him up the track a little bit. But yeah, at Darlington, you hope that you can just initiate that move, get up beside somebody, and that they let you go. But obviously, you get closer and closer to the end of this race, and that'll start to happen less and less.
Yeah, the closer we get to the pay window opening, the smaller and smaller the chances people are going to do you a favor and get out of the way for you. As you can see, a battle between Michael Krobach and Jonathan Cogswell. Krobach goes up the field another position now, takes the top 5 spot away from Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan continuing to run a smart race. He was paying attention, saw Michael get to the outside of him, and gave up that spot. You see Chance Manning continuing to go side by side here with Isaiah Dupre. Like Kenny said, he's continuing to race aggressively, and that could cost him here if he gets some guys that are just not going to have any of it.
Yeah, now Adam Chersky's running up behind these 2 drivers. Adam has a lot of speed here, especially in the early going. We'll see what that can do for him in the later half of the race, but Adam's already up. He started in 18th. He gained about 8 positions or so right off the bat from the start of the race, so I think he's got a lot of speed in that car. He's just waiting to use it towards the end of the run here.
Yeah, and that's what I've been interested to see is these longer runs. You can see Adam getting a great run up off of turn 2. Should be able to make that pass through 3 and 4. Looks like he's able to complete it. But yeah, absolutely, Austin. He's been a guy that we've seen kind of go to the front and to the back because of the different strategies that have been played out. Now that we're getting into a longer run, we're kind of seeing what he has in a race car, and it looks like he has something to work with tonight.
Yeah, at these super aggressive tracks, one thing I'm a big fan of is just kind of holding back at the beginning. Whether you drop through the field or just kind of hold bar for the first half of the run, you're just saving your tires. And as soon as you get halfway through the run, you'll know, because all of a sudden you don't need to try any harder, but the entire field starts to come back to you. So you just kind of take it easy the first half of the run, and then you can really attack the second half, but it's almost like you don't need to.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's kind of the Days of Thunder thing, Austin. You want everybody else to slow down. You don't want yourself to have to go any faster, but you want everybody else to be slowing down throughout that run, you maintaining your speed. And if you can do that, you're going to have something extremely good to work with and very easy to maneuver around these guys that are slower in the back half of the run.
You can see Woody Mahan gets around the 28 car, Jonathan Cogswell as well. That's going to move Woody up to the 6th position. Woody is one of those guys. He has a lot of speeds on certain niche tracks, and he has genuinely a lot of speed on most of the tracks, but it's always something comes up for Woody to go ahead and minimize the talent he has, the kind of runs he's been putting together. So it looks like he does kind of have that old school racer about him that just kind of takes care of his stuff and is there at the end. That he's putting that on display here tonight.
Absolutely, and he deserves so badly to have a good run. He's ran so well in these races, just not had the finishes to show for it. Hopefully tonight he can have that go his way and just avoid those different things that have prevented him from getting the finishes that he deserves.
Thomas George has, he originally last lap, he had about a 0.6 of a second deficit to Brian Yazik. That's now back to around a second. So the top 3 or 4 cars have remained pretty consistent in terms of pace in and around each other. Looking here now at Scott Ackridge. He's a driver that has a lot of speed, especially here. He won this race earlier in the spring, but unfortunately for Scott, he was involved after getting together in an incident with Jeff Ward. After another incident, Scott's currently down 13 laps, so he's just trying to put down a solid run here, get as many points as possible, because he already used one of his drop weeks last week at Daytona by just not showing up. Didn't take his car down to Daytona Beach, Florida for that race. So now he's got to be out here just pretty much scrounging for points as best he can. Looking at Brian Yazik here, currently he's the leader, trying to get around the lap car here at Grant Brown. Interesting to see him get down out of the way.
You know, this is one of those tracks, as you get longer into the run, if you are that lap car that is slower, it is very difficult to try to keep your car in a consistent place on the racetrack. Grant trying to do that, but the track is so slick, it's so hard just to drive your own car around this place a little long when guys are coming up faster trying to pass you. So Brian being very smart there, being very conservative, able to get by, and has now continued to open up that gap again. As we see Joe Alberico on the back straightaway here. Looks like he has spun. The green flag is still out.
Yeah, green flag still out. Luckily for the leaders, Joe is off the track. It looks like he has some damage there to the left front suspension, so that's probably his night already more done than it already was. This is the 67 car of Chris Parness here. Oh, look at Greg O'Berry involved in that one too.
Yeah, definitely. I think Greg's probably going to come away with the least amount of damage there. Joe's car looks like the front end is severely bashed in. We'll see here. Looks like Parnas maybe. That must have been the lap before and allowed Greg O'Berry to actually get a run going into turn 1. That's what caused the side-by-side contact that we're going to see up off of turn 2 here.
Yeah, it's weird too. All these drivers were laps down. I mean, Joe Alberico was only 1, but Greg O'Berry was about 13 laps down. Chris Parness, though, he was still on the lead lap, was the driver of the 67.
Going back to your point from earlier, JR, talking about possible lap traffic. Granted, there's not a huge field of cars out there, but lap traffic will definitely be a factor, and some of these drivers might try their best to stay on the lead lap for a while, but other drivers might kind of give way. But even if they do give way, it's very easy to catch a lap car in the wrong spot, not time your run right, and it can really slow the momentum of these leaders down. You saw actually how Thomas George peeked into the camera shot there of Brian Yazik there momentarily while they're trying to get by Grant Brown, and things like that. One loss of momentum can kill you for an entire lap, and can possibly lead to some lead changes.
Yeah, Grant Brown has continued, sorry JR, to just not get out of the way. He gave Jeff Ward a heck of a time trying to get by him. Actually, I think he even helped push Jeff into turn 1 after he got by him.
It's really a track that if you're going to try to get out of the way from the guys that are approaching you faster, you really need to do it on the straightaways. Got to be very aware of where everybody is running, especially when you're getting ready to be lapped. Doing it in the corners is very, very difficult, especially when your car is not handling well. And back to Kenny's point, you know, as you catch this lap traffic, making those timed passes is very important, and you have to be looking, you know, 2-3 laps ahead. You have to be aware of where that lap car is and be thinking about how you're going to line up that pass so you do not lose the momentum when you get there.
Chance Manning has brought his 54 car down pit road. We'll have to see if this is a scheduled maintenance for him or not. He was on the lead lap, so definitely a factor in this race, trying to go for the old undercut maneuver here.
Yeah, I didn't see him spin out or hit the wall or anything like that, so I'm pretty sure this is a scheduled stop. Jonathan Cogswell now making a stop of his own, so this is kind of early. I do expect drivers to be able to go, I don't know, maybe 5 or so laps longer than this, maybe even longer than that. But yeah, I think this is the start of our first round of green flag pit stops.
You can see pole sitter 28 car, Dave Allison throw back. Jonathan Cogswell brings his car down on pit road. So far, it's just these two drivers down there. As you see, Brian Yazik comes by on the front straightaway to go ahead and put him a lap down. And that's the danger you run on this track of being a lap down. But, you know, if you're pretty confident we're not going to have a caution, you might as well bring that car down pit road to get 4 fresh good years.
Yeah, and that's kind of the opportunity. Some of the guys that are toward the front here, but are not used to being able to challenge for the win each and every week, take a chance, pit a little bit early, get that undercut going. If the thing goes green, you're going to make up a lot of time during this pit stop exchange.
Yeah, Chris Parnish, Jordan Harnish, Grant Brown, all 3 of those drivers now down on pit road. Scott Eckridge.
Yeah, because right now it looks like the drivers are about at a 1.5 seconds or so of fall off. So that's about the time that these drivers are going to gain lap after lap. And right now, if I'm one of the leaders, I'm probably still not really going to flinch and make my move quite yet. I'm still waiting for somebody, I'd say around, you know, Drew Carroll, Woody Mahan, one of those drivers. If someone up or from them up above, if they start pitting, that's probably when I'm going to start thinking about making a pit stop.
So Brian Yazik, still your leader. Thomas George about 0.6 of a second behind him. Jeff Ward currently in 3rd place. Looks like we have a battle between Woody Mahan and Michael Krobach. Well, that's Krobach is down pit road as well. So he's the first of the front runners to really be down on pit road here on lap 95. And this might bring a whole slew of other drivers down pit road with him.
Yeah, just like Kenny said, when you start seeing some of the guys in the top 5 beginning to make their pit stops, that's when you're going to want to start thinking about, should I pit this time by or not? And there's different options you can take, but definitely if you do not want to lose time to those guys, if this thing goes green, you want to make your pit stop right after they do.
Yeah, certainly. And some of that can just be, well, I know Michael was about, 5 seconds behind me. If I'm Brian Yazik, I know he was about 5 seconds behind me. If I'm losing a second or 2 per lap to new tires, I can wait about a lap or 2 before he would leapfrog me. And now at a track like this, track position is king. I'll always say that time and time again. Tires are certainly king, but it's only really when you've got a deficit of about 10 laps or so. And especially with these next-gen cars, the new wider tires, I don't even know how true that is.
Yeah, we're continuing to watch on screen Scott Eckridge continuing to try to turn laps. He is 14 laps down, but this should be a wake-up call to everybody else who wants to try to race for a championship. Even if you're having a bad night, if your car can continue, you need to be out here making laps, trying to get every single position that you can, because at the end of the year, that could determine who wins the championship.
Certainly all those old Winston Cup championship numbers, usually the guys that completed the most laps are up there in the top 5 or 10 in championship standings, and I don't think there's a coincidence between those 2 statistics.
Absolutely not. And we see up front here, Jeff Ward has actually chased down Thomas George quite a bit. George is going to make his pit stop here. He's pulled down to the apron. Jeff is going to continue along with Brian Yazik in the 1st and 2nd positions. We see Thomas getting his car slowed down. You do not want to overshoot that pit entry here coming in on turn 3. If you do, the car can get very loose. You can lose control. You can hit the barriers at pit entrance, or you can even miss the entry altogether and have to do another lap. So Thomas doing a nice job to get the car slowed down and on the pit road.
Yeah, super easy to blow the entrance to pit road here at Darlington. Every single year we come here for the Southern 500, you see a lot of drivers having Jeff Ward almost goes for a spin. He does, he loops it. And look at Woody Mahan. He tries to go around the outside of Jeff Ward. So Jeff Ward facing the opposite direction here on the entrance to pit road. You can now see Isaiah Dupre come by, and that's just an unforced error on Jeff Ward's part.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about. No caution came out either, so that's going to cost Jeff a lot of time on the racetrack. Very easy to do as you come to pit road here. If you miss that entry speed, you can spin out, or you can overshoot the entry altogether. And we saw Jeff Ward show what that can do. We see Woody Mahan actually overshooting his pit stall just a little bit. That's going to cost him some time.
Yeah, Brian Yazik came down pit road as well. You saw that hesitation there out of Isaiah Dupre. Not quite sure for certain what that was about, but as someone who doesn't always have those pit box things selected, it's before you get to your box, you go, oh, shoot, I should make sure I've selected my tires. So you stop before you get to your pit box.
That's a very good point. I was wondering the same thing as you, Austin, but if he had chose not to take tires the time before or something like that, he may have had a box unchecked and may have had to check that box before he got in there. Otherwise, it would have been a wasted pit stop for him.
Yeah, you can't stop in your box and wait there 5 seconds and go, hold on, my car should be off the ground here already. So good job on him. He lost a second, but it's much better than getting in there and, having to wait until you realize, oh, yeah, dummy, forgot to check my tires. So John Wilco doing a really good job. He's currently cycled to P2 in that Epcot machine. You see Isaiah Dupre pass him on the outside. That's just what new tires can do for you. That is seconds a lap faster.
Yeah, so go ahead, Kenny. Tell us about that.
Well, essentially right now, lap 58 is when the leaders, Rich Jetty and John Wilco, pitted. So these guys pitted about 10 laps, 10, 15 laps later than everybody else originally. So these guys can still go another maybe 10 laps or so if they would like to. So these guys have cycled up to the front, and behind them in third is Chance Manning. Remember, he was the first driver to initiate this entire sequence. So he has cycled ahead to essentially be the provisional leader for the time being. Michael Krobach, another driver, he pitted 5 laps later than Manning. He's right behind Manning. He is in fourth right now. And then Thomas George, who would be one of the leaders, is about 5 car lengths or so, 5-10 car lengths behind Krobach. So all this different pit strategy starting to play out here. Brian Yazik is actually back in 7th right now, trying to work through some traffic after he pitted decently late amongst the leaders. So that's one thing. If if you pit a decent bit later or earlier than your competition, you can really expect a lot of flip-flopping to go on.
Yeah, certainly. And let's just, for the viewers at home that might not know, basically the tires don't just plateau. They'll get progressively worse and worse over a long run. But, they sort of get exponentially worse, and then the curve kind of reverses. They don't necessarily plateau, but it's certainly more of a gradual time incline for these drivers on tires. So it's not necessarily that just because Michael Krobach pitted later than Chance Manning, he'll just have a 3-second deficit toward him the whole time. Eventually, you'll see Chance pass him because of the undercut, but because Michael Krobach has the fresher tires, Michael should be able to catch up to him and pass him. It really just depends on when those two sort of lines intersect to see when those drivers will catch and pass one another. As you can see, Thomas George looks to the inside of Michael Krobach here.
Yeah, Thomas trying to make this pass on Krobach to get his way back up toward the front and essentially be the second place car once pit stops have completed here. One thing I do want to mention is that Jeff Ward, because of that spin coming to pit road, was briefly a lap down, guys, but he has been able to get by Rich Jetty and get that lap back. But could have been a lot worse for him there. He's able to get back on the lead lap. If we get a caution, he'll be back in this game.
Well, I mean, for instance, he was about 2 seconds behind Brian Yazik, who was the leader before he came down onto pit road. He should come out of here. He was the kind of provisional leader, as you called it. He lost about 12 seconds due to that slide and then spin. So that is just how much time Jeff cost himself with that unforced error. Jeff trying to make his way up through the field. To see Michael Krobach has now gotten around. Whoa, look at the slew of cars. Chance Manning. You see Drew Carroll as well. And now Brian Yazik has gotten around him too, so still in the hunt. So it's currently George, Krobach, Yazik would be your provisional leaders of the race, quote unquote. This is another look at that, what happened.
Just out of shot there, Chance Manning got really loose off of turn 4, and that just killed his momentum as he then went down into turn 2 and just got kind of freight trained by the few cars around him.
It just kills your momentum, and not only from that slide off of turn 4, heating up those rear tires, slowing him a little bit down through turn 1 and 2. He also missed the exit of turn 2 and had to check up and lost even more time, and that cost him even further in the field here with the positions.
John Wilco now comes down pit road in the 62 machine. That leaves Rich Jetty as the only car that has yet to pit on this cycle in the 36 machine. You see Rich out there. He has about a 10-second lead over Thomas George. Eventually, these guys, I mean, you know, you're doing this not out of necessity, but mostly just hoping there's some kind of errant caution to go ahead and kind of just slingshot you, you know, not really into the lead per se, but more so just help you, you know, get a chance to fight. You try to put a lot of guys a lap down. That's why you see these guys staying out there. But also, Kenny, you mentioned they pitted about 10 laps after these guys last time around.
Yeah, so that was going to kind of offset their strategy from the beginning. I was trying to do some math and see if they could actually maybe make it on one stop as opposed to other drivers doing two. But as far as fuel goes, I think that everybody will be just making one more stop regardless. So I don't think that strategy call is going to work out. But Chance Manning right now is really struggling. He has overheated his tires and he is dropping like a rock. I've seen him nearly wreck probably 2 of the last 3 laps.
Well, I mean, JR, talk us through that situation where you know you're the first driver to come out, so you want to try and take advantage of having those new tires trying to undercut the field. So you go out there on track and you try to put down some qualifying laps until your tires get too hot.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that as a driver you want to go out and do and try to get the biggest advantage, since you did pit before everybody else and you're already going to be gaining about a second and a half on the drivers that are still out there. But if you go too hard too early, you will overheat the tires, not only just the front tires and develop a push getting into the corners, but you'll overheat the rear tires, and that'll make the car very loose through the center and on exit. And that is kind of what we're seeing from Chance Manning. The car becomes very, very difficult to keep under you as you're coming up off the corners. Right now he's struggling really, really bad. So he's back into, I believe, the 6th position right now, just trying to hang on. If you're Chance, you're hoping that a caution is going to come out fairly soon so you don't continue to lose positions.
Rich Jetty, Christopher Duval down on pit road this time by. That, of course, cycles Thomas George to the lead. He's got a 0.6 of a second advantage over Brian Yazik, and then a 2-second advantage here over Michael Krobach. So that's your battle for the podium position for the time being. Jeff Ward currently a whopping 14 seconds behind Thomas. So that's just the kind of disadvantage Jeff Ward has given himself after that really just unfortunate error. I mean, Jeff Ward, he really had the car to beat behind Scott Eckert here in the spring as well. You see the 44 car super loose down the front stretch. All the leaders having to take evasive action.
Yeah, the leader's done a great job to avoid that. It looks like Seif's going to be able to get down to pit road. Not sure exactly what happened. He does have right front damage, I believe. So he'll have to get that car repaired.
Yeah, he tried to bust down the fence here. This, I believe, is coming off at turn 2. Okay, so that's off turn 4. I think his accident, though, is coming out of turn 2. So this is him down the front stretch into turn 1, just behind James Kula. We'll see if he has any part to play in this.
Or if this is potentially a lap or 2 before the incident.
Yeah, this must be. Yeah, anymore. This has to be. See James still up there. He might just be trying to get around James in a second. So this is, again, going down the front straightaway into turns 1 and 2. You can see him getting closer, looking at the inside. Not going to do it yet. I would expect to see him get loose here.
I know it is. It does happen quite often to where you know, and JR, you can talk about this too. You know, in turn 1 and 2, you go up the track, and if you don't slow down enough or cut the wheel down enough or early enough on the exit of turn 2, you get caught in the upper lane of that turn, and it narrows up so much that you will slam into that outside wall, and it's such a helpless feeling because you get to about the 2/3 mark of the corner, and there's not really a whole lot you can do. If you've missed your mark, you're pretty much set and done for.
Yeah, it's very deceiving from the middle of 1 and 2 all the way up off of 2. It looks like you can get into the throttle so hard through the middle of that corner and just carry that speed off, but the exit closes up big time and the groove itself closes up big time. And if you step over that groove into those marbles, into that rubber, that's loose rubber that's up on the top of that track, the car will absolutely go straight. And I don't care if you get out of the gas, you turn the wheel hard left, it's going to continue to go straight, and you're going to hit that wall and corner exit. Guys that get out of it early enough may only brush that wall. Others hit it very hard that we've seen tonight. And man, that was a very close call as we look back on that replay with Brian Yazik and Thomas George missing Seif down the back straightaway there.
Yeah, I was wondering how we had a pass for the lead. You can see basically, you know, the shortest distance between 2 points is from A to B. Brian Yazik kept his car up there by the wall at a lot shorter distance. So you can see this is on board. This is a live look from Thomas George to Brian Yazik. This is the kind of gap they have between them. 0.2 of a second. This battle for the lead certainly continues to get hotter and hotter.
Yeah, and we spoke about it earlier. Thomas has done a pretty darn good job of saving his tires through this long run. But Brian Yazik is running the traditional line around here and does not seem to be falling off pace-wise. So we see Thomas being able to keep up with him, but Thomas is not able to really get close enough to try to make a pass at this point. Be interesting to see if Brian's able to keep this up all the way through the run. Last time he was able to do that.
To that lap car they just passed was, of course, Scott Eckridge. Scott, if you just missed it earlier in the race, was involved in a 3-car accident down the back straightaway that brought out the second caution. So Scott's competitive day pretty much over. He's just out on track trying to get as many points as he possibly can with, of course, more and more drivers getting loose off corners and wrecking themselves. So trying to gain all those points is possible.
Yeah, definitely something you got to do throughout this season, no matter what. You never know how your 2 races are going to get used up. You do have 2 drop weeks, but there's always bad luck that comes into play. The most points that you can get throughout a night, even if you're having a bad night, could determine who wins the championship at the end. So you definitely want to continue to make every single lap that you possibly can.
Well, especially if you're Scott Eckridge, just to reiterate, I mean, he missed last week. He did not show up in Daytona Beach, Florida, so that's already a drop week in and of itself. So, you know, he's only got one more to spend, and I'd hate to be out of both my drop weeks, of course, by week 3. It is a little bit better than he did last season by, you know, using up the first 2 drop weeks in the first 2 races of the season. This season, of course, Scott won at Watkins Glen to start the season. But he didn't show up last week, and he's having a really rough go of it here tonight.
As a lap or 2 ago, Jordan Harnish, who was running 10th place at the time, he spun off of turn 4. Didn't look like he hit anything, but he did come down pit road after that. He is in pit lane right now, and he's setting off after a 4-tire pit stop. But I don't think, if we go green the rest of the way, I don't think he's going to make it on fuel. So he pitted probably out of necessity, thinking maybe his tires were shot after the spin, but don't think he'll make it to the end on fuel at this point.
It's an interesting point too, Kenny. I think a couple laps before that even, he got super sideways off of turn 4, had a huge tank slapper moment. Miraculously, he saved the car, did a whale of a job, but yeah, those tires, I hit the rear tires, especially in that 22 car, were spent.
Yeah, you know, guys, this is one of the tracks that tire temperature really shows up quickly. So you can come in, take tires here, and the tire wear overall is not that bad, but the car feels like it has no tires under it whatsoever, and that's just because of the tire temperature. You got the tires too hot, you got them angry, and it takes many, many laps for that to come back down. Sometimes you will pit thinking that the tires are completely gone, and they're really not. You just got them way too hot. We see Jeff Ward actually coming to pit road here.
Yeah, I think this is, I have a feeling that this is scheduled, although it's really aggressive. I think this is possibly Jeff thinking this is my only chance to gain some track position here, is to come in. And I wonder if this is too early, because it's about 60 laps until we finish this thing up. But I think he wanted to come in as soon as he thought he could, get those fresh tires on, and he made a good, safe pit entry this time. I think he wants to gain some track position this time around, as opposed to what happened last time.
Kenny,
I mean, go ahead, Jeff.
sorry, Austin. Yeah, Kenny, what do you think about doing maybe 2 more stops to the end of this thing? Doing 1 more, I guess, doing 2 more stints, and just being able to go hard, assuming that this thing goes green.
Yeah, I'll just butt in here and say I was looking at the lap times of Thomas George. he's put down his last 3 laps. He had a 31.2, a 30.8, and a 30.9. So at this point, you know, you're losing about 2 seconds per lap to those 4 fresh feel-good tires. I feel like Jeff Ward, I feel like he's not too far out of place by go ahead and 2-stop in the rest of this race. Thomas George is doing the same thing here.
That's the thing too is, oh, and we have a wreck on the front stretch right now. No caution so far, but it looks like Chris Parnas is wrecked on the front stretch. Looks like he will be able to get it going. I was going to say that could have potentially really hurt Jeff Ward because he is now 2 laps down, but it looks like no caution so far.
Yeah, this is a replay of what happened. We're looking at the purple car on the outside of Joe Alberico in the 83, coming off. Looks like he tried to avoid there Jonathan Cogswell, so he went further up towards the wall and then trying to turn it back down. Just got sideways. Oh man, look at Jordan Harnish. More contact.
Yeah, and he may have some right front suspension damage there, guys. Looks like he's not able to keep it off the wall after that contact.
You know, I am really surprised that George has made his pit stop and is coming in. You see Chance Manning coming in now. We're starting to get close to the point where I think the drivers could make it on fuel the rest of the way, but it will be interesting to see. I do kind of have a feeling that Jeff Ward might be trying the 2-stop strategy here instead of just, you know, or well, 1 more stop, I should say, instead of no more. But if I was Thomas George, I don't think I would have really thought much about Ward in his situation because of the fact that he was 15 or so seconds behind at the time that he pitted. Because now he's on a very alternate strategy to drivers like Yazik, and because I have a feeling that Yazik and probably Krobach are probably going to run a few more laps, and it'll really change this strategy up.
You know, if I'm Brian Yazik, I've got to wait. Same with Michael Krobach and Woody Mahan. I'm staying out there. I feel like we're not going to get into the caution. I feel like it's faster to stay out there and just, you know, 1 stop before the rest of this race. I don't really like the 2-stop strategy if you're Thomas George, but you know what? He's making a call. And Kenny, if we were in the Generation 6 Cup cars for sure, I would say it's better to stop twice than to just run your car out of fuel and only stop once. It was definitely faster before. I don't think the tires fall off as bad here, but it really just depends. These guys have probably done some long runs in practice leading up to this race, so they might know a little bit better than we do.
Yeah, and the key thing is to whatever strategy you're going to go with. If you're going to pit extra times, you have to commit to it, and you have to pit really on the earlier end of that scale so you can make sure you can get the good out of your tires on both runs. If you hesitate and kind of pit like halfway in between both strategies, well, then you won't be able to use the full potential of your new tires on both runs. So you just have to make sure that's why I like what Jeff Ward did. He pitted as soon as he thought he could. And came down and was the first one to do so. So we'll see how it all plays out. And if there's a caution, it could change everything.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Jeff Ward, he's already going to be about 10 seconds behind Thomas George, and I say 10 seconds being a little easy on the guy. I feel like it's more like 12 or 13. That's what it had been for the longest time. Jeff caught him up by about a second after they were done battling, but ever since then, he's had about a 13-second deficit to Thomas George. You see Chance Manning just behind there, Thomas George with 54 machine. I don't think that's for position.
He's actually 2 laps down. Thomas is 1 lap down because of the pit stop he just made, but Chance is trying to make up 2 laps, so he's trying to come through the field aggressively right now in order to get at least 1 of those back.
Well, and Jeff must have done a pretty good job in his pit stall because at the beginning of that cycle, Thomas was about 15 seconds ahead of Jeff Ward, and now the interval I'm seeing is between the 2 drivers was about it was more like 9 to 10 seconds. And Thomas, you see, has been dealing with a ton of traffic, and this is not helping his case. Oh, he's having
look
to
at him
avoid,
all the way 3-4 wide down the backstretch.
yeah, he's having to avoid a few drivers here, and this is whatever strategy you play, this is not what you want to be dealing with when you come out of the pits.
Yeah, this is, you know, you want to come out and have clean air. You don't want to have to be driving around a bunch of lap-down cars, or at least cars on older tires compared to yourself. When you talk about the distance and the gap between those big tires, Thomas just passed Michael Krobach and made it look easy. I mean, he didn't even have to think twice about where he was going to put his car. He just passed it effortlessly. That's the kind of, disparity between new tires versus old.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that Thomas, he's not just having to deal with some of these other guys that he's already faster than. He's also having to deal with Chance Manning here, who is trying to make up, like we said, those 2 laps. So he's going to race Thomas really hard because he's trying to move forward and get one of those laps back.
If we could get like a blimp shot of Jeff Ward's view right now, we could really see, like you see there's the traffic that Thomas George is dealing with. Jeff Ward is just now catching these 2 cars. He has had a huge gap all by himself the last 5 or plus laps or so. So if he can get past these 2 cars quickly, which looks like he will be able to, he's just had a much easier time with the traffic than George has. A little check up there, but not too bad. Now he's got a big gap ahead now to the next car. So this is pretty optimal for Jeff with this strategy. We'll have to see now if he does come in for another pit stop as Michael Krobach is in the pits.
Yeah, we see Krobach going up on the jacks here. I would assume, Kenny, that this is probably his last pit stop, assuming that we are going to stay green in this race with just 44 laps to go here.
Yeah, he and Adam Jersky, I mean, these guys are pitting a little bit too late to go ahead and 2-stop this thing before the end of the race. I don't think, you lose so much time on track that even with the fresh tires, you really can't make it up. So Brian Yazik's still your leader. He has a 12-second gap back to Woody Mahan, and then it's about another 12 seconds back to Isaiah Dupre. Adam Jersky was scored in 4th before he came down onto pit road. You can see he's now in 5th, being passed by Rich Jetty, Jonathan Cogswell, now Jeff Ward. So definitely more comers and goers in this race.
And I think I do kind of like the play that Brian Yazik's playing here. I think there will be a time when he needs to make that pit stop. Maybe not exactly run it out of fuel completely. He is definitely in his window now to make it all the way to the end on fuel. I think this is the more conservative play, but I do like, on the flip side of that, I like the drivers who are trying a more aggressive strategy. Just trying to do something different. The field's pretty spread out at this point, and not everybody is going to have the pace to be able to catch up to Yazik and pass him. So I like the plays on both ends for different reasons.
Yeah, and guys, we're looking at Brian Yazik leading that race. Thomas George is obviously about to unlap himself and get back on that lead lap. Chance Manning going to get one of his laps back more than likely, but there's only 4 cars on the lead lap right now, so definitely if we have a caution, which we do see a lot of cautions late in these PGRL races, Brian Yazik, Woody Mahan, and Isaiah Dupre, they could be looking really good here.
Harley Moss still down on pit road. He's been down there for the big majority of this race. I don't think he's even moved from that pit stall since we dropped the green flag. Brian Yazik, though, has now a 13-second lead over Woody Mahan. He, Woody, and Isaiah all still have one last pit stop to make before the end of this race, and we'll see if Thomas George does as well. I don't think these guys can make it on fuel, can they? We talked about the fuel window not being too large.
Yeah, I mean, at least according to when we talked in pre-race, is approximately, I think, like 50 laps or so. So I think drivers at this point can make it. But who knows? I mean, I'm really interested to see. I'm really keeping an eye on Jeff Ward to see if he comes in again. Because if he is going to come in again, it'll probably be in the next, 10 to 15 laps or so, I would think. And he still has clean racetrack. He's still running really good lap times, but he is still 1 lap down. He is the first car 1 lap down, but yeah, still down 1 lap. So again, that's the risk that you play with this multiple stop strategy, is going a lap down for a long period of time. And if we get that caution, sure, he might be able to get a wave around, but he and many other cars would lose a lot of track position.
Yeah, Jeff Ward is pretty much now an entire straightaway away from where Thomas George. I mean, that time going by the backstretch, Thomas was going into turn 3, and Jeff Ward was just coming onto the back straightaway. So I don't think Jeff has gained a whole lot of time. I can tell you though, for certain, Thomas George has been eating into Brian Yazik's lead a second a lap. But it's going to be really tricky to see how this whole 2-stop versus 1-stop strategy plays out, unless maybe Thomas is just trying to eke it out on fuel.
We're at the point of the race, guys, where it's really hard to tell who's on what strategy and what their mindset is on this. We're looking at a replay here. We see Isaiah Dupre actually get into the wall through turns 3 and 4 ahead of Thomas George there, so it could have been a moment for sure if that had gotten any worse. But as we talk here, that Brian Yazik is actually making a pit stop, guys.
Yeah, Brian Yazik down pit road this time by. He's got about 36 laps to go in this race, so we'll see what he can do to the end here. Certainly, though, it comes into the pits from the lead. We'll see if Woody Mahan comes down pit road, same with Isaiah Dupre.
Yeah, that's going to cycle Woody Mahan to the top right now. He's continuing to stay out. So we'll have to see how much longer he chooses to stay on track. I know he is definitely hoping that a caution comes out while he has that lead.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much run 50 laps on this set of tires, so I don't think he can physically stay out there much longer, but that's definitely all he's praying for. Jonathan Cogswell coming back down pit road for another pit stop as well, and Thomas George at this point would cycle back to the lead once Mahan makes his pit stop, and Brian Yazik at the moment I believe is 1 lap down, but he is the first car 1 lap down.
Yeah, and he's going to put himself on the lead lap with this pass right here. You can see that's the leader Woody Mahan. He's going to go down to the inside and clear him easily before they get into turn 3. See Yazik shoot the car there on the bottom, go up to the wall. So Yazik puts himself back onto the lead lap this time by. Woody Mahan continues to stay out there, and I'm kind of puzzled as to why these guys, you know, with how many cars we have on the lead lap right now, wouldn't have just split this last stage in half. They really biased it towards the second end of the race. I feel like if they're going to 1-stop, I would have done what George Ward did, but we'll see how it plays out for him by the end of the race here.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Like I said, everybody's kind of doing a different strategy. Everybody has a different mindset on how to approach the end of this race. And a lot of guys, I think, are really hoping that we're going to get some late cautions and be able to use up those tire sets that they have setting in the pits.
Brian Yazik continues to move his way up through the field. You see Jordan Harnish in the 22 kind of get down low and out of his way. Sportsman-like move from him. Thomas George trails our current leader Woody Mahan by to the tune of about 5 or 6 seconds. Then Jeff Ward is another 13 seconds behind Thomas George. So those two drivers have remained super even. Woody Mahan now comes down pit road, almost hits the commitment cone, barely gets the car stopped in time. He shouldn't get a speeding penalty, but has brought that 84 car down to pit road.
You got everything coming down the pit road there on those old tires, so doing a great job to keep it in bounds and not hitting the entrance of the pit wall there. We'll have to see how he cycles through. Definitely going to lose a lot of time. He stayed out there for, like we said, over 50 laps.
That's going to cycle Thomas George to the lead now this time by. And how special would it be for Thomas George to park that Mark Martin-esque car in victory lane here at the track? Too tough to tame. Mark Martin, winner of several Southern 500s in the 90s.
Yeah, Mark Martin was definitely one of the best on trying to get around this place. Not always with outright speed or anything, but he had the right mindset of knowing when to attack this track and when to conserve and just run the track itself, not race your competitors. So it would be great to see that scheme be able to get back into victory lane. We see Thomas ducking down in turn 3. He's going to be coming to pit road here, guys.
Oh, he is going to 2-stop. This might mean that Jeff Ward is going to have to as well. You can see a much cleaner pit entry there from Thomas George. I don't think he got everything, but that was super efficient there from Thomas George. And sometimes these entrances, I mean, if they look slow, they are quite speedy sometimes.
Well, it's interesting that, you know, last time around, Jeff Ward pitted first, and then George followed him in a lap or 2 later. Actually, about 3 laps later. And this time around, George is now pitting first, and so far Jeff Ward has not pitted, and he's actually going to be the leader for, I think, the first time in this race.
Yeah, Jeff Ward has the lead about 2 seconds clear of Michael Krobach in the 72 machine. And then, I mean, he's only, oh, yep, you see Jeff Ward coming down pit road right there. And you can see Brian Yazik passes him around the outside. So Yazik is going to have the lead this time by, or no, Krobach by about 7/10, sorry. But, I mean, he's there. I mean, they're in turn one right here. Yazik's going to make this easy.
It'll be interesting to see if any other drivers decide to commit to a two-stop strategy. You can't really go much longer now if you want to try that strategy out, and much longer, and it's not going to be really a whole lot of time left in the race to make it worthwhile. Yeah, Krobach holding on to the lead at the moment. Yazik just kind of being patient, setting up the pass here on Krobach. He pitted 9 laps after Michael did, so he should easily be able to make this work. See if he takes a look in turn 3. He does not. These two are teammates too, so they're racing with respect.
Oh, I mean, he's just taking his time here. You don't want to overheat your tires. We saw that what that did to Chance Manning and Chris Parness, I believe, too. You don't want to overheat the rear tires whatsoever. You want to take it as easy as possible. And he'll probably just go up high here and set him up down the backstretch.
And we saw James Krahula actually get loose in front of those guys. That's something else you don't want to do, is get impatient, try to make them move in a wrong spot.
Ryan Yazik going to shoot the car to 55 down the inside of the 72. His teammate at Krobach. And that's going to put the 55 into the lead once more in this race.
Yeah, Yazik, I'm sure, trying to look at making the race on the tires that he has, running this run out. So he's going to have to be conservative on how he's driving that car, take care of his stuff, and try to have something that he can at least maneuver with at the end of this race.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't just want to run away from the field. Eventually, he's going to come up to these lap-down cars. He just passed the 67 car, Chris Parness. He wants to make sure he still has some pretty good Goodyear Eagles on that machine to make sure he can kind of get through traffic, because the last thing you want to do is be pretty much stuck behind someone who's a lap down and get run down by one of your competitors.
It's the worst thing as a driver, knowing that you have a lead late in the race and then you just cannot pass a lap car, and in return getting past yourself and losing the race. So definitely want to save some tires, be able to maneuver your car around, have something to work with.
See Chance Manning in the 54 car there. He had a lot of speed in the earlier goings of this race. Overheated his tires on an undercut strategy a couple laps, maybe a couple stints ago. Had to take an extra stop down pit road and go pretty slow. That pretty much put him out of contention by about 25 seconds. But he had a lot of speed in the earlier going of this race.
He's done a nice job to recover, though, so running 7th right now. Be interesting to see if he can continue that out. He definitely wants to get a good run, like you said, did so well early in this race.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for him, he had the speed for a win. Unfortunately, he just didn't quite get there. You see John Wilco, he's going to miss pit entry. He's going to have to go the long way around, and that really sucks, because you lose all that time trying to get down to pit road, and then you have to lose even more time actually getting down to pit road the next time by.
It's almost like having to make a drive-through penalty, and also when you re-enter into turn 1 there, it can be very sketchy if you're not able to get back up in line in time. He was letting somebody go there, so he almost made contact with the turn 1 wall.
Quick update on Scott Eckrich. We know he was having some trouble in a wreck early on, and he's been just out there running laps, and he is just passed for 16th place, which really doesn't sound like much, but the fact that he was down beyond 20th place and has been able to claw his way up into almost a top half finishing position, and on top of that, other drivers not even showing up tonight, I think that's got to be a pretty decent result considering everything.
Yeah, that's that kind of old, you know, you just keep in it. You never give up. You try to get all the points possible just to make sure that, you know, your drop week, you know, the weeks that count are truly as good as possible. So staying in this race, and of course, you know, remember back to the spring race, Ken. I mean, Scott won that race, and he had all the speed in the world to do it. He and Jeff were super close on pace.
Yeah, for sure. And coming into this week in the practice, those two were the top of the board on practice time as well, but neither of them really, I mean, Jeff Ward is kind of a factor here for the end of this one, but he has really spent his entire race just trying to claw his way through the field, and it just goes to show how there's so many ways that races at Darlington can play against you and not go your way. And caution on the speedway. This is going to change everything here.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the cause for caution is here, but boy, Brian Yazik did not want to see this. Looks like Grant Brown spun out once more. Perhaps Woody Mahan involved as well. This is coming off turn 2. Yeah, Grant Brown gets a little sideways and involves the 84. Look at Thomas George trying to duck out of the way.
Looks like not too much contact for like Woody Mahan there. I think he'll be able to continue with an all right race car. And luckily, with there only being 8 cars in the lead lap, he'll most likely stay in the top 10. There are 3 cars 1 lap down. I believe Chance Manning will get the free pass, and then Cogswell and Jeff Ward will be able to take a wave around here, and that'll put 11 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, Grant Brown driving it for all it's worth. 6 laps down. He's trying to do the same thing as Scott Eckert, just trying to get everything he can out of this race day. So you can see Brian Yazik going to take his car down pit road due to the advantage he has, unlike NASCAR where the drivers all kind of get queued up before they come down pit road. It's going to take quite a bit for Yazik to lose this lead. Hopefully all these drivers are going to have one more set of tires left. Otherwise, just stay out of the track and say your prayers.
Well, this is going to be the 5th pit stop for these guys, so I believe they will have this set and one more set. There might be a couple drivers in there who have pitted 5 times already, and maybe we'll have one or use their last set here. But I think everybody will be all right to the end, and I don't expect really many more pit stops beyond this point, other than if we get another caution, the drivers who are taking the wave around now, they may pit if we have another caution. But I think everybody will be okay on tires.
Brian Yazik wins the race off pit road, followed by Michael Krobach and Drew Caro. You can see the 54 car drives by around the outside. We're going to take a quick break and be right back after these messages.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Joy of Driving Darlington 250. We're here live at Darlington Raceway. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network. If you're looking for entertaining sim racing content, look no further than the Joy of Driving. You can follow Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with his cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the Joy of Driving on YouTube or like his Facebook page at the Joy of Driving channel. You're just now joining us. The caution has just come out for the 6th or 7th time tonight. We're on lap 170 out of 184. Brian Yazik is currently your leader. Michael Krobach in second. Drew Carroll in third. Adam Jersky and Thomas George round out the top 5. There are 11 cars on the lead lap. You can see that's the field as it is currently. So this definitely has been the race of attrition thus far.
Absolutely has. We're going to have a sprint to the finish here with 14 to go. One guy that I'm looking at is Drew Carroll in that 3rd position. He was very fast at the beginning of this race, guys.
Brian Yazik has elected to restart on the top side. You can see Michael Krobach to the inside, leaving back quite a lot of room. That's because of the inside car. Very difficult to see the outside car with just if you have a single monitor or you aren't using VR. Brian Yazik gets a huge jump in front of the field. There are 3 cars now battling for that 2nd position.
Contact Drew Carroll into the back of Krobach. Oh, big wreck. Oh, and that took out a lot of guys that were up front.
Might have made contact.
Yeah, indeed, I believe he did there.
That's really unfortunate for both. Those are team cars.
It's like we said, Austin and Kenny, you guys both jump in. These are guys trying to go for a win that don't normally have the opportunity at the end of a race to do so.
Well, it's a win. It's points. You got to capitalize. I mean, the toughest hitters, both our defending champions, are out. Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, I expected that the 72 did get really loose there, but I expected the 27 to lift, and he just didn't. And I mean, you saw the gap, and it just honestly, I think the 27 would have made it through had Dupre not slammed the outside wall. It's just, you get these restarts and you're pushing the limit, and a lot of times off of turn 2, you think that it'll stick, and when you're up high like that and you just pin it to the floor, a lot of times that's not the case. You got to lift.
Yeah, there's a certain give and take you need even at the end of these races. You see Scott Eckridge goes down pit road. I believe that's Michael Krobach down there for the time being. I think, no, Dupre, excuse me. I think Dupre, Krobach, and for sure Carroll. I think all 3 of those guys pretty significant damage. I believe Thomas George might have scraped the wall off turn 2. James Gurley, see him get the free pass this time by.
So this really helps out Jeff Ward and a couple others that took the wave around last time by. He'll be able to get in, get a pit stop going. He'll be fresh tires, fresher than everybody at this point. And with so few cars on the lead lap, he'll be in the top 10 on the lead lap, right in there. Possibly could get a top 5 out of this. And also Chance Manning, he was the one that had the free pass last time, but he had to start behind quite a few drivers because of being the free pass. Well, now he gets to be set up with the rest of the leaders. He is now inside the top 5. We know how fast he has been on the short run and how aggressive he's been. So look out for him on the next restart. He will potentially be restarting 4th.
Another guy to look out for is going to be Woody Mahan. Also had a great run, had some slight contact a couple of cautions ago, but he is up into the 5th spot on this. So he's going to have another shot to try to get a good finish here.
Drew Carroll is disconnected, so you hate to see that for the 27 car. He ran a pretty solid race all night long, and just tried to make something happen there. And it wasn't really entirely his fault, mostly just a racing deal. But just a bunch of stuff happened around him, and the gap just closed in on him.
Yeah. I'm not sure there was a whole lot he could do, even if he backed out there. He was in a bad spot with Krobach getting loose and then Dupre getting into the outside wall. It just all came together, all 3 cars there, and just a very bad situation to be in.
Yeah, once again, the lady in black, the track too tough to tame, rears its ugly head once more in terms of just demolishing some race cars. And, super hard to go through turns 1 and 2 too wide, yet alone if you try to make it 3.
So this is really going to change the dynamic of this next restart. The last restart had 5 Fords in the top 5, and about 3 or 4 of them were all teammates. Now, it's kind of a mix. You got Chance Manning's kind of a new player up there, but you have less team cars up there. You know, Yazik's up there, but now he's got to deal with Thomas George, who these two have arguably been the best on the track based on their speed and their track position. Some fast cars just haven't had the track position. Chance Manning's been really fast. Woody Mahan was pretty solid up until he had some problems. And Krobach's been demoted all the way down to 5th, so this restart could be way different than the last one.
Yeah, and you notice that Brian is taking that outside line, which is actually a good choice, as we said that Chance Manning is going to be on that inside line in 3rd. We know how fast he is, so putting Thomas George in front of him, that's going to be another car to kind of block Chance from having a good run through turns 1 and 2. And we also know that Chance Manning and Thomas George have gotten into each other already in this race, so those guys are going to be racing each other pretty hard at the end here.
Brian Yazik is once again chosen the outside line. That puts Thomas George to his inside. The rest of the top 5 is Chance Manning, Woody Mahan, and Michael Krobach. Look out for Jeff Ward, though. He's in the 7th position. I got that wave around now, has the 4 fresh tires. iRacing pace car goes down pit road. We're looking to see who the 3rd different winner this season is in only 3 different races. Brian Yazik once again, super good start, catches the rest of the field sleeping.
He does. Thomas George is able to get in line into 2nd spot. Following him is Woody Mahan and then Chance Manning. We do see Jeff Ward in 5th place there.
Yeah, gonna have to keep our eyes here on Jeff Ward. He has the freshest tires in the field, apart from Scott Eckridge, but Scott multiple laps down, out of contention for the lead. You look at Chance Manning here to the inside of Woody Mahan. These two are battling for the right to talk to Kenny Kibbe, finishing 3rd place.
Yeah, taking no time here at all moving forward. Thomas George is looking for the lead here on Yazik.
Yeah, they crossed by the stripe that time by to get 8 laps to go. Thomas George all the way up to Brian Yazik. He ate up that lead that Brian got going down the front straightaway. Now down the back. Look at this big run that George gets. He's going to look down to the inside. He barely breaks the plane of contact before they have to brake for the corner. Too wide in the center.
And this is what
momentum here on the high side. Yeah, Brian Yazik's going to clear himself again.
And this is exactly what the drivers in 3rd and 4th, being Manning and Ward, want to see, is those two getting side by side. As these two are nose to tail, I guarantee that Ward's looking to make a move for that 3rd spot, but at the same time, they want those leaders up ahead to do battle.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff definitely wants to pass Chance, but he wants to pass him fast. He doesn't want to fight with him too long and slow both those drivers down and allow Yazik and George to drive away from him.
We've seen how the leaders in these races at Darlington at the very end come down to contact. If the 2 guys get together in front of you, the 3rd or 4th place guy could be sitting pretty here. The one thing that Brian Yazik does not want is he does not want Thomas George getting a good run up off of turn 4. Going into turn 1 side by side is very treacherous here.
Yeah, Thomas George continues to look on the low side there. Jerry, you talked about it earlier. That's going to help Thomas save his tires, but with the few laps to go we have, it isn't going to matter too much. It's all going to be about that momentum down the straightaway from the high side.
He's definitely pushing harder than he did in those previous runs. The bottom side, he's worked it all night long, so he knows where the grip level is, and he knows that he's going to have to make a run through there because that's where Brian Yazik is not. The one thing that you can potentially do in turns 3 and 4 in these cars is actually shift down, and in a short run, you may be able to make that pay off.
Yeah, Thomas George got a really good run, though, that time out of turns 3 and 4. This is the closest he's been going into turns 1 and 2. We'll see what we can do in terms of setting up a pass here. Look, he arches the car down. Look, he's going to get a big run here. Almost gets up into the wall. I think he had to back out of the throttle there.
Pushing hard, trying to get air on that car. He's having to run the non-preferred line through turns 1 and 2. As we look back in 3rd spot, Jeff Ward is making that pass on Chance Manning. He's going to try to chase down these leaders. If he can't, he's still in the best spot in case these guys get together.
They were too wide for the most part down the front stretch. Yazik had the momentum on the high side and then cleared himself the hard way in terms of getting around Thomas George. Forced George to kind of say, all right, that's fine. You take one lane off the wall. Force George to back out.
That's the biggest attack that Yazik's had so far, getting into turn one
Look at
side
George
by side.
stuff it in there.
George is driving hard. He's going to do everything he can to try to get to the inside of Yazik and break his momentum.
You guys, last time by, Jeff Ward was 0.3 faster than these guys up ahead. This time he's 0.4 faster, so at this rate, he will catch these leaders. He will be a player.
Yeah, 2 laps to go here, about a lap and a half left. You're riding on board here with Jeff Ward as he tries to chase down the top 2 drivers. Thomas George goes to look. He's going to follow Brian Yazik this time on the high side. We'll see if he can get a run here.
Yeah, and Jeff's going to be there, guys, but we're coming to the white flag right here. He's going to come up short unless contact is made up ahead of him.
Yeah, white flag, 1 lap to go. It's all Brian Yazik. He's looking out the windshield to see nothing, and unfortunately for Thomas George, he sees Brian Yazik. Oh, big run for George coming off 2. He'll slam the outside wall. That's going to allow Jeff Ward to get around the outside. Look at he stuffed it into turn 3.
Yeah, he's going hard, almost getting into the wall. Wall routing's an option, but it may not pay off to get that spot. Looks like Brian Yazik is going to win this race, the 3rd one in that paint scheme, guys.
Yeah, 3rd win for Yazik, 3rd race of the season, 3rd different winner. Thus far, Brian Yazik takes the victory here in the Joy of Driving Darlington 250. Brian Yazik did a phenomenal job all night. Unfortunately for Thomas George, just barely coming up short in terms of trying to run him down, and track position is everything when you're on even set tires.
Jeff coming up just a little bit short tonight. He's going to wish that there was 1 or 2 laps more in this race, but Brian Yazik took control of this race, led the majority of the laps, and did a great job controlling it.
We're going to take a quick break and be right back to recap your finishing order and talk to the podium positions. Don't click the mouse. We'll be right back after this. We welcome you back to PGRL's race, the Joy of Driving Darlington 250 from Darlington Raceway. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network. Brian Yazik just brought his car home in the 1st position. He'll win. He's the 3rd different winner in 3 races. He's also won 3 races in the last 5. So Yazik really on a hot streak towards the end of the season. Jeff Ward comes home in 2nd position. Going to do a really good job for him with the points. He was a lap down not too long ago, took the wave around and got lucky with a 2nd caution coming out almost right away. Thomas George fought really hard for the lead, basically from the start of the race to the end, especially in the last 20 or so laps. He'll come home to round out the podium. Chance Manning had a lot of speed all night. He's going to finish in 4th. Woody Mahan rounds out the top 10. Really well-deserved top 5 for Woody Mahan. He's had a lot of speed, so it's nice to see him get it. Jonathan Cogswell started on the pole, and when we asked him, he said he was going to take it easy and just kind of race the track and be well reserved for this race and let people by if they got runs. He did just that. He brings the car home in one piece. Michael Krobach wins the Crow and Krobach show by virtue of being the only one here. He'll come home in 7th place. Isaiah Dupre finishes in 8th. James Kahula comes home in 9th. John Wilco rounds out the top 10. Heck of a run Christopher John in his Guardians of the Galaxy Epcot scheme. Chris Parness comes home in 11th, followed by Adam Jersky in 12th. Grant Brown finishes in 14th. Drew Carroll comes home in 15th, followed by Rich Jetty. Greg O'Berry, Joe Alberico comes home in 18th. Harley Moss and Christopher DeWald round out the top 20.
Yeah, finishing in 21st position is Jordan Harnish tonight, having some multiple contact out there on the racetrack. 22nd place is Saif Ferries. 23rd is Pete Baskins. Coming home in 24th is James Moore. Justin Rector is 25th. Cody Dempster will come home in 26th, having a good run early, but ultimately having some hard contact, putting him out of the race. Matthew Wheeler will come home in 27th, and not starting the race, but finishing in 28th will be Wally Wilson tonight.
Thanks, Jared. Looks like our third place finisher, Thomas George, is ready to be interviewed. I think Kenny's now standing by Thomas on pit road.
Yeah, I'm down here with Thomas George. Thomas, it was really close at the end. You definitely put it all out there, laid it on the line, and talk about that last little run. I mean, you kind of just got thrown up there a couple spots with some of the leaders getting together, and it put you in a really good position. How are you feeling going into that restart? And just talk me through those last couple laps.
I don't know how I was feeling about that last restart. I just knew I had to go. I wasn't saving tires at that point. And, I mean, we'd run up front all night anyway. We were top 3 car. I just decided to do a gamble and didn't quite work like I hoped, but we got saved by the caution. It's hard to pass at Darlington, and Brian and I were more or less pretty much the same all night. You know, I'd be a little bit better on the short run than he slightly would pull away from me on the long run, and those last couple of laps, I gain on him coming out of 4 because I was running that lower line and I was more stable down there, but I was just a little too tight in 1 and 2 to arc the car off the corner, and I'd have to lift just a little bit, which a little bit is maybe 2%, just to get the car to rotate to get the run off of 2. And you know, I had some good runs, and if I could have gotten the run off of 2 and gotten alongside and going into 3, I think I would have had him, or at least at the very least be side by side. So there's just nothing you could do. It's hard to pass here, and I didn't want to rough him up to do it. I wasn't going to do that, even though I wanted to win Darlington. I love this place.
Yeah, it's definitely a driver's racetrack, and you looked really good out there. But the strategy was actually going to be the basis of my next question. With you, we were wondering if some drivers near the end were going to try to make an extra pit stop or not. And we saw you and Jeff Ward were pretty much the only two that really tried that strategy. Did you base that off of seeing Jeff try that? Because I know the first time around he did pit a few laps before you did. Or were you kind of thinking that regardless from the beginning?
It didn't crawl into my head until maybe 10 laps into the run. Because I had lost the lead because of a car overcorrecting, and I kind of knew right then. I was like, oh crap, I can't hold them off now, so I couldn't set the pace. And I knew tires were going to be the biggest thing, and it's worked at Darlington before. It's worked for Denny Hamlin on numerous occasions. It worked for Truex before, and there was only 8 cars in the lead lap, so I knew I was going to get back to the top 5 more than likely regardless. So I just said, you know what? To heck with it. Let's gamble. We're here to go and try and win. We got to try and get as many bonus points as possible for this championship, and didn't matter at the end anyway, because we got a chance to win, and we just came up short. It is, but that's racing.
Right. Well, you still have a really good points night, and I think this will propel you up into second place in points. And we'll head over to Kansas Speedway next week, 1.5 miles. Not quite as challenging of a place as this is. What are your thoughts on Kansas, and how would you assess your championship so far?
Well, Kansas, we probably had a top 3 car until we got collected by a driver that's no longer here, so that's a good start. The number 6 Ford Ford Mustang has speed everywhere. At least I think it does. It's tough to say until you get going and get racing there, and it's I don't know. It's a toss up as far as the championship is concerned. Well, we had a third place at Watkins Glen, so that was a good start to the season. Daytona, we were going to. I'm still mad about that from last week. Like I remember when I got right hooked by somebody. I don't remember. It didn't damage the car too bad, so it's like okay, whatever. It's still a good shot, and then the 57 decided to not use his mirrors or anything like that and just came up in front of me for no damn reason, and then it ended our shot of winning a race, but at least we got 11th there, so perseverance and all that good stuff. And obviously tonight I didn't expect to, and I don't think some of the testing I did here, I wasn't expecting to be a race winning car. At least I didn't think off the bat. I knew I could be a top 3 car, and fortunately we were a race winning car. We just couldn't quite put it together at the end there. But I mean, Brian's a really good racer, and he and I race very similar, and we're pretty much on the same, I would say we're on the same level in terms of talent, but obviously he's got more wins, so he's obviously beating me right now, so but it's been a good championship so far. We need to add a couple wins into the column to get some bonus points for that last couple of races for the drop weeks and everything.
For sure. Well, you definitely came close tonight. Solid run for you. Who would you like to thank for the run tonight?
All the admins that put this together, and they continue to seek my opinion for some weird reason, so thank you to them. You guys are putting on the show, for my lovely lady friend Ash for cheering me on and all that good stuff, and I guess I should thank iRacing because it exists for this very reason. So we're all here, we're all trying to race, and tempers flare and all that stuff, and then at the end of the day we're here to go out and win races, and just thank everybody from you guys to the admins and everybody that make it possible.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Thomas. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, Kenny.
That was Thomas George, our third place finisher tonight, and looks like J.R. Shepard has caught up with our second place finisher, Jeff Ward.
Indeed I have, Kenny. Jeff, congratulations on a second place run, having to start in the 28th position tonight. I want to ask you about the early part of your race. You actually got some damage from an incident you were trying to avoid, both contact with the front and the rear. How did the car react to the rest of the race after that?
Yeah, man, that was unfortunate, not only for me, but I also collected my teammate Scott there and pretty much ended his night, so that was a bad deal. It kind of felt like a pinball a lot of the night. We was really back and forth. 2 laps down there because I spun out trying to get on pit road, hit those bumps, and felt like I was an off-road truck going through there. Couldn't save it, so that set us back. Man, just I can't believe I'm actually here talking to you on the podium. We probably don't deserve to be here, but that last restart was just able to dig and make a charge there to try to get back up to Thomas and Brian. And we almost got there, man. Probably needed a couple more laps. And the car felt good. We was able to get all the way back to no damage after fixing it throughout all the race. And she was faster at the end, just ran out of time.
Jeff, you definitely persevered throughout this race tonight with everything going on. I want to tell you, well, I mean, for one thing, everybody watching at home, this is why you don't give up, because you can definitely battle back and get a second place finish. But I want to ask you about your pit road incident where you spun coming to pit road. Tell everybody just how tricky this pit road entrance is, because I know it looks easy when guys are able to make it, but it is very difficult.
Man, you're going down the back stretch. You got tires. It's slick as hell. You can't even hardly drive this thing after 20 laps. And so you're going into turn 3. You can't see where pit road is, first of all. You start gearing down, and about the time you turn, you start seeing those yellow lines, and sometimes you might overshoot it. And then on top of that, there's some bumps there, like I said, that's like hitting a drainage ditch that'll throw the thing sideways. And then on old tires, that's what happened to me. I just looped it, and then my wheels cranked 360 degrees, so I'm trying to hit reverse, but I'm gearing up all the way to 5th gear. So it was hectic, man. We lost about 14 seconds there, and that's how getting on pit road can bite you.
Absolutely can. This is a treacherous place all the way around the track. I do want to ask you for your strategy toward the end of this race. Looked like you were doing the multiple stop strategy, obviously trying to do the undercut, get some time made up on the guys in front of you. Were you hoping that this race was going to go green, or were you really hoping to get a caution and try to have a short run at the end?
Man, really, it was a pretty dumb strategy. I just like the feeling of getting on new tires and just going balls to the wall there. So that's kind of what we did. I didn't think I was going to get up there towards the leaders, but I knew I might get some track position by doing that. And on top of that, I just got tired of being so loose down there in 3 and 4, wrecking loose. I don't know if we just missed the driving style or what, but all through practice and the race, I was wrecking loose after about 20 laps on that right rear. So I just wanted to avoid that, get on some fresh ones, and put the hammer down.
Absolutely, man. You gained 5 spots in the points tonight. I think you're up to 6th place, only 28 out. How are your feelings going into Kansas next week?
It really is tough starting in the back. Scott did it all last year and won several races, I think, by doing that. So, man, hats off to him, because it is tough coming up through there and trying to stay out of trouble. So Kansas won't be any different. We'll be mired back there in traffic most of the race and trying to methodically work our way to the front without getting in a wreck or anything. And we're kind of getting in championship form here. Got 3rd last week and 2nd this week. So if we can just keep this rolling, hopefully we can start chipping into what Brian's doing there. But if he keeps running like he is, and he's going to keep stretching it. Congrats to him, by the way, on the win.
Jeff, we continue to look forward to watch you each and every week and how you come through the field. Before we let you go, man, who do you want to thank for tonight's run?
Yeah, thank you guys there in the booth, first off. Thanks to PGRL, everybody behind the scenes at LPM, Graphics Motorsports, Arccone, all the guys there. Thanks to Arctic Coolers, Lexington Brewing and Distilling, Kuyu Ultralight Hunting, Mac Bailey Remodeling, and give a shout out to anybody else that's there watching.
Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us tonight and for your 2nd place run, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And that was Jeff Ward, everyone, our 2nd place finisher in tonight's race. With that, I believe Austin is now caught up with our big winner, Brian Yazik.
I sure have. Brian, your red Yaza sandwiches and more paint scheme continues to dominate on the racetrack. I mean, you ended the season with 2 wins in a row. This should be, I think, the 3rd race you've won in the last 5 races. So you are on a hot streak like none other, my friend.
Yeah, Daytona kind of went our way. Who knows? Could have kept trucking along with good vibes and the good luck there. But Daytona's Daytona, and I was happy to salvage the top 10 out of that. And turn around and win it this week. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, when you had been dominating pretty much all night long on that last green flag run. Thomas was on your rear bumper for the majority of it, and then you gapped him by about 4 seconds after your guys' pit stops because they undercut him. But boy, what was going through your mind when you got that caution? I mean, you were well clear of him.
There was a lot of words that you wouldn't like me to repeat on the air that kind of came through my mind, but. In these deals, you take a minute, you get frustrated, you get pissed off, and then you just kind of move on. So that's what we did. And, we had the gap and the pace, and it was going to be smooth sailing, providing equipment didn't fail or whatever. But you always know that there's a risk of a caution at the end of these things. So you kind of factor that in. So I wasn't really trying to drive stupid aggressive. And then, lo and behold, the caution came out. Really, I needed about 10 laps to kind of build some space. Our car was really, really good on the long run. It was loose like everybody else, but I think ours was less loose than others. So we were able to really kind of build at the end of the run, which was kind of setting me up really nice for the strategy that we were rolling with there. But yeah, short runs weren't my friend, and I knew Thomas was going to give it hell, off of the first restart, and then they wrecked again, and that really didn't do me a whole lot of favors. But thanks to Thomas for racing me clean. He could have easily put my crap into the popcorn stand in turn 3. But that's we've raced together a long time, so that it's a good mutual respect. So that's awesome there. Out of that, we got the points lead, so that's crap. We're not going too bad here.
Certainly not. Kansas is next up on the schedule. Your thoughts for there, and obviously you've got the momentum like you talked about.
I mean, we got the momentum. I'm just not a big fan of Kansas because just how it has to be. You got to run 2 inches off the wall, and I was kind of hoping a new car would fix that. But it gives you a little bit. So I'm looking more forward to Bristol, Texas, not Talladega. As we kind of wind down through the season. But I think we'll be all right at Kansas. 1.5 miles have been really good for us, and really all we're trying to do, when you got the points lead, is you don't let them, they have to beat you. You don't have to beat them. So it's just going to be a matter of paying attention to who's around us in the points, and try to rack off as many bonus points as we can get, and try to finish. If we can't beat, the guys that are chasing us, at least minimize that loss, 1 or 2 spots, and just kind of keep that churning down the road. So it's not bad. Kansas is Kansas. It'll be fun. It'll be wide open and a blast, but there's going to be a little bit of right rear tire saving on that one, because you don't want to barbecue it and try to hang on to that thing off the tube. That gets real tricky. But it's kind of like Darlington in that sense, where you just kind of have to maybe the right rear just a skosh, and it'll reward you down the road. So it won't be too bad, but it won't be, I'm not looking super forward to it.
For sure. Brian, before I let you go, who do you have to thank for your win, man?
I mean, obviously, Gals and Sandwiches. My folks are getting ready to probably shut it down for the season here within the next month. So if you find yourself up here in Indian River, Michigan for whatever reason, and you're here Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, swing on in, get yourself a sandwich, taco, those sorts of things. MC Squared Editing Services, Michael Krobach. I know we were looking at a 1-2 there for a while, and then the cautions fell the way they did. He ran across some trouble, so that's pretty crappy for him. I feel bad for him, but Loud Pedal Motorsports, sim racing apps, long time sponsors of mine. Jeff Gilliam and the products that we got going on. Shout out to Scott Rupp, who owned Midwest Simulations, which produce spotlights, which are a little spotter system up above your monitor. I definitely used that at timer 3 tonight, where maybe it was going to be clear-ish, and I knew it was going to be clear because of that. So we got that. Also, shout out to Clipping That Apex, our friend Scott McKenzie up there in Canada. Unfortunately, his dog Enzo lost his battle, so that's been a rough time for them, and we feel awful for them. I know Scott got a little bit of closure just the other day, or maybe it was today. So that's awesome. But Scott, if you're watching this, we're thinking of you, buddy. It always sucks to lose a pet and a family member and all that. So this one's for Enzo, buddy. Couldn't think of anybody, any other nicer way to try to put out good vibes in the universe. So that's what we got. Man, we just gotta keep winning. This is fun talking.
For sure. Brian, thank you so much for the time tonight. Congratulations once again on the win.
Hey, awesome. Thank you, guys.
That was Brian Yazek, the winner here tonight. Guys, this race, we pretty much called it in the earlier going. It was just a race of comers and goers, and certainly the finish did not disappoint.
It definitely did not. It came down to a short run, and we saw guys like Brian Yazek be able to hold off Thomas George, Thomas trying to make a run, and then Jeff Ward, who's always up front, being able to come home in second place there. So definitely a tough battle tonight. It was a battle of attrition before that. So the guys that were able to keep their car in good shape, they got the battle here at the end.
Yeah, and there was a few drivers, like fast drivers, that got in some trouble right from the beginning and had to kind of claw their way up to the front, and some of them never even reached the front beyond that point. So kind of really changed the dynamic of this race, and it kind of ended up being about survival. And a couple drivers stayed up front all race long, and then we had that late mix-up that really changed everything with that late restart. But I'm glad we were able to have that intense restart and still finish under green flag conditions. And Brian continues his streak of momentum here, and but gotta hand it to Jeff Ward and the gutsy drive he had there at the end to get all the way up to second from starting 28th and having the issues he had on the racetrack. Phenomenal drive that could be pivotal when it comes down to championship time.
For sure. Once again, we'll plug the sponsor. We'd like to thank so much Mark Cohn and his channel, The Joy of Driving. You can subscribe to his YouTube page or check out his Facebook. 2 different ways to follow him. His page, of course, facebook.com/The Joy of Driving channel. Highly recommend you go check that out. Super entertaining. The next Pretty Good Racing League broadcast is going to be next Tuesday, September 13th from Kansas Speedway. This stream is going to go live at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And the next Virtual Grip Network broadcast is going to be this Friday, September 9th, where the BRL Dirt Street Stock Series takes on Knoxville Raceway. That stream goes live at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. This has been a pretty good production of the Virtual Grip Network. On behalf of myself, Austin Balke, my booth mates, J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe, our director, Trevor Greenfield, and everyone else behind the scenes at the Virtual Grip Network, we thank you so much for watching and wish you a good night.